Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Capital Film Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with the host, Mr. Katt.
That's right, I am the damn host, and I'm here with my co-host.
Oh, I get promoted again?
Shut up, you freaking narc. Anyway, yes, my
Well, we need to keep the continuity. Am I co-host?
I don't care anymore. The continuity is dead. We have it just as much.
Oh, we're in wrestling business now.
We have just.
This is a worker shoot.
I'd actually say we have the most amount of continuity as the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise.
Well, that's not a movie. That's not what we're supposed to be talking about today.
Maybe one day we'll talk about video games, but not today. We're talking about movies today, and today we are talking about our revisions.
Yes. So, a little bit of a thing about the revisions. Last year, little over a year ago now, I think it's about an extra month now, we decided to sit down and organize a top 20. We did this in about a single day. We didn't do any rewatches or nothing. We were just like, 20 movies each of us wanted to put on our list. We didn't do any rewatches or anything like that, so just made the top 50, not top 50, top 20 from there. But today, I spoiled it a little bit, we prepared ourselves.
We created a new list.
Yes, so we created new top 20s, but more than that.
A lot more, because Bryce wants to be extra.
We decided to go 250% overload.
I'm going to kill you because Bryce messaged me last night saying, hey, if you change your mind, I made a top 50, and I was literally writing it as he messaged me. That's damn narc.
So, a little bit of a story about this. In between the last two episodes, we decided to go get food. We were doing a little bit of talking on the drive over there. My host over here, Mr. Katt, was like, I don't know if we want to do top 20s. I'm not too confident on it. And I was like, make a decision. I'm going to make a top 50. We either do it or we don't. And I decided to make a top 50 just in case. And then, last minute, you decided to finish your list and surprise me literally as I was setting stuff up over there.
Yes, and I wanted it to be a major surprise, you know, Royal Rumble style, but I guess not.
That's the number 30 entrance.
Oh my god. But either way, yes, we have 100 movies to talk about today.
Yes. I do want to go over a process for making them real quick. Because we did have time to make them. You made yours last night.
Yes.
I've been doing this for a while.
Yes. However, I guess we can go over the processes, but yeah, let's go over with your process.
So, I made a top 50, and what I decided to do was I took some of my, basically some of my highest rated films of all time, put them into a spreadsheet, and I went movie by movie and gave it a new rating, 1 to 100, of how likely I was to rate that movie top of my list. Not top of, my all-time favorite movie, just top of my list. So that way I could give, a little bit of favor to that. Now, that does give some favoritism to very particular movies, but by doing that, I then organized the score, grabbed the top 50 movies from that, and put them here. So I have, by organization there, by pure spreadsheets. I looked this over a few times, made sure some movies made sense. There was one pick where I was like, I have to swap those just because of how things happened.
Yeah.
So.
Alright, so is that your pretty much whole process?
Yeah, that was my process, was using spreadsheets for this.
Alright, so my process is chaotic, as it were. So I went on my IMDb. It's how I keep track on movies that I usually rate or have seen or plan to see.
The people's site.
Yeah. Most people are starting to say it's Rotten Tomatoes as the people's site, which I don't get why.
Rotten Tomatoes is... So the problem with Rotten Tomatoes is it favors the critic reviews, but still asks the audience. So it gives the illusion of actual input.
What is the other website that's kind of similar to IMDb, but they do it out of 5?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, I don't remember
It's
either.
film something, I think.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't know. But either way, I went on my IMDb.
I don't know why, but I thought it was Sight and See, but it's not that. Sight and See is a critic thing. And it doesn't matter.
Anyway, back to my thing. So I went on my IMDb, and I just went through all of the different movies that I've seen over the past years. And pretty much I have my own thought process, and I thought this over a little bit. I personally don't believe that if you made, say, a top 10 favorite movies, that every single one of them has to be a 10 out of 10. I believe you can have a movie that is, say, a 9 out of 10, or a 7 out of 10, or good golly, a 6 out of 10, and you can still, and somehow, in some way, you can consider it a favorite. So, some of my movies, I personally don't say they're a 10 out of 10. They might be a 9, 8, or 7. Maybe, who knows, it might be a 6, I don't know.
So, just to give a little bit of an emphasis on this, you're more list focused, while I'm just more movie focused for this, because you have basically a feeling of a list going through, you have actual sense in being able to be like, here's particular picks and interests and here's stuff like that. I just have movies I like and I did raw data for all of them.
Yeah, so you're being more analytical. I'm just being more... I don't even know. Ethical is not even the right word. I'm thinking pathological.
I guess pathological.
So, pretty much, it's how I usually feel. Movies are something that usually affects me on a very personal level. So, It's pretty much what the art form is all about most of the time. So, we have 100 freaking movies.
Yes.
How should we start this?
You want me to start? Typically we start with my stuff and you finish off with your first pick. So.
Alright, let's do this, yeah.
Alright, my number 50. 1985's Clue. With Tim Curry, Christopher Lloyd, Madeline Kahn, the whole bunch.
Oh boy. Yeah. So, me and Bryce have a bit of history with this movie.
This is such a fun film.
Yeah. So we and him saw this way back in 2017.
In which case, I showed it to you for the first time.
You showed it to me for the first time. I've heard about this movie about a year or so ago, and I've only heard about it for one thing, which we'll talk about that here in a bit. This movie is a star-studded cast. It is a pretty much, well, not an adaptation, but a loose adaptation of the Clue board game that, of course, nobody knows how to play correctly.
I know how to play it.
I know you probably know how to play it, but I
That was actually my favorite board game as a kid.
I never played it in like the 100% way. It's like
It's really good if you play it correctly.
Oh yeah, I've heard it sounds pretty fun, but
it can get really annoying because players can body block you in certain areas, so it gets really annoying.
Yeah. However, would you like to go over like a basic synopsis without spoiling anything?
So what this is, if you played the board game Clue, it's Clue the movie. It is very funny in my opinion. It's just a fun film. Don't take it seriously. The movie doesn't take itself seriously. If you're just wanting like a pretty dumb, weird movie, that's precisely it. And don't go into this expecting a serious mystery film. No. Sure, it's a mystery, but
I've heard like with recent years, like have you ever seen the movie Knives Out?
Oh, I've heard about it. It's been on my watch list. I was actually going to not rewatch it, but I was going to watch it and be like, for this list, but not put it on there and be like, I'm curious.
Because I've heard a lot of comparisons in recent years to Knives Out and Clue. They both have star-studded casts, murder mystery, the whole shebang.
Yes. So this is like more of a classical Knives Out.
Yeah, but Clue is pretty much you take the top stars of the 1980s and late 70s.
Yeah, the top comedians.
Yeah, the top comedians. I mean, Tim Curry, he's one of my favorite comedians of all time. Christopher Lloyd.
Madeline Kahn.
You got them all.
Yes.
It's Madeline Kahn, you got them all. I hate how that rhymed, kind of. Anyway, yes. So, yeah.
I'd recommend it if you're looking just for a dumb comedy.
Yes. You know what? I'm not going to mention anything about the movie, particularly on how I first heard about it, because I think it kind of robs the interest that this movie had. Maybe whenever we will eventually talk about this movie, actually.
Yes.
Spoiler for the...
We're probably going to talk about all the movies on both our top 50s.
Yeah, I was going to announce it at the very end of the episode. So...
Well, we already said that we're going to do it for the top 20s already, so...
Yeah, pretty much. Alright, so... You have anything else, Bryce?
No, go ahead with your top 50.
Alright, my number 50 is a weird one. I forgot to write down the dates on which they came out in. Sorry. I might remember some of these, but this one is from the 1980s also. The Black Crystal. Jim Henson's The Black Crystal. So, have you ever seen this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Not in full, though.
Makes sense.
So I watched this as a kid, and I did the classic kid thing of watching the movie halfway before, like, food or something came, and I just ran to get that. I think it was ice cream or something.
Makes sense.
And just didn't finish the movie.
Alright, so how do we describe The Black Crystal?
So it is a fantasy film.
Yeah.
It has a lot of puppetry.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Jim Henson, so a lot of puppetry. And if I remember correctly, this movie does so much world building.
Yes, so here's how I've understood this movie. So this movie was a huge passion project for Jim Henson.
Yes.
He wanted to make a major movie that is akin to Lord of the Rings. Well, this was before Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, but this was like a lore-heavy, dark, surreal piece of work, and it's using puppets. And pretty much this entire movie is dealing with a black crystal that is all-powerful, and you have a bunch of these people that are fighting to attain it to control this planet. A lot of stuff is said in this, and it leaves you confused. However, ever since the Black Crystal, it's got a huge cult following. it recently had a Netflix television show that
That sounds about right. But
Yeah,
it seems like the type of show they get Netflix show.
Yeah, like it literally expanded more of the world. There's been comics about this thing. It's just been interesting. And even then, like, the sequel development hell for this movie has been also fascinating. It's been jumped by different people. And whenever Jim Henson passed away, it was up in the air. And it was like, are we ever going to actually finish this? Because this whole thing was supposed to spawn more movies. And it never did. Except for the show and the comic stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so The Black Crystal, how do I describe this movie in a way that can entice a new audience to this movie? Amazing puppetry.
Oh, yes.
It's some of the best puppetry you'd ever see in a movie, period. Almost everything in this movie.
I feel the best way to describe this movie, it was made with so much love.
It really was made with a ton of love. It's not perfect.
Yes, it was just made with love.
It's made with love and a lot of passion, and that's what... This was like a movie that is like paramount to what I was talking about before. If I can tell that the people working on this movie had a huge passion for it and a love that they wanted to see this come to fruition, I'm going to love this movie as well, because I would love to see passion projects really shown the love. I mean, the same way with video games, movies, television shows, art, anything. As long as I see the passion is there, I'm going to probably love it.
Yeah. Alright. You ready for my number?
Yeah.
That's
pretty much it.
Number 49, 2010, Inception.
Oh man, now I was about to say it's somewhere on my list too.
I presume, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just to give you a hint, Inception's on both our lists. So.
Yeah. So pretty much we didn't have a single Christopher Nolan movie in either like Top 20 initially.
Christopher Nolan's a really good director.
He's a really good director.
This is, in my opinion, probably his masterpiece.
That is saying a lot.
Yeah.
I am not. That's a whole can of worms, not a can of worms. I mean, good lord. Christopher Nolan, like, probably for this whole century, has probably been the audience's favorite director, if you think about it.
Probably the 2000s, yeah. He's probably been the top director.
Because, like, he did the Dark Knight trilogy, he did...
Memento, Inception, he did...
Interstellar,
yeah.
Dunkirk.
Oh, Dunkirk, yeah.
I think his latest movie, I didn't enjoy it that much, to be honest.
I haven't seen it. I didn't hear good things about it, so...
This one's his best. What was the one that he did? Memento, you already mentioned that.
Yeah, Memento, that was his breakout.
I was going to put it on here, but then I thought I really want to rewatch it at first.
Yeah.
Because there are some movies that I did rewatch in anticipation for this, but some that I just couldn't get to in time because of a certain someone.
By the way, I rewatched all my movies from my list, so...
Yeah. So, yeah. Literally Christopher Nolan. What do you say about Inception? Besides saying maybe it's his mouth.
It is so this is a very complex piece. It's not in the sense of it being hard to follow. The story is actually...
It's easy to follow. It's just the subject matter is...
Yeah.
If you try to just... Honestly, I would say this. It's a movie that's hard to describe.
Yes.
But you just have to watch it and then you just think, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But you just can't describe it to someone.
This is... it's really hard to describe, yeah.
Yeah. I mean... This
is one of those, like, either you're going to have to sit down and watch the movie, or you're going to have to, like, watch out for when we describe this movie at length. Yeah,
I'd rather us describe this movie at length. It is on the future episodes list. It's just whenever we get to the other stuff first.
Yeah.
Alright.
Your number 49.
My number 49. This one's a fun piece. Zombieland. So very much akin to the amount of Evil Dead 2. Very much doesn't take itself seriously. This entire movie is literally a spoof on zombie movies. Very much a love letter to, what's his name? He's the one that did all the zombie movies. Not Rob Zombie. It was George Romero.
Something like that.
I know it was something like Romero or something.
I don't have any.
Either way, this entire movie is basically a giant spoof.
Yes.
We have Bill Murray in it.
Bill Murray, probably at his weirdest.
Probably. He probably saw the script of this and he didn't think this was going to be an actual serious movie. Yeah.
This movie is weird.
This movie is very, very weird. Honestly, it definitely has spawned so much meme culture around it, especially with the whole thing about Twinkies. I mean, that's probably the most memorable thing about the movie is, besides Bill Murray, Twinkies. Yeah. Twinkies never expire. I'm glad I probably ate one Twinkie in my life, and I never had to get
Never ate one.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
I don't believe so.
Good. Either way, yeah, Zombieland. I mean, good lord. This movie is very fun. We'll talk about it again sometime soon.
We're on to the next one?
Yep.
Number 48, 1974, Young Frankenstein.
Of course. Man, that far low, too. Dang.
Yeah, I was surprised. A lot of the comedies wound up getting shafted by my analytical process.
To be fair, it's like comedies are like usually easier to rank. It just depends on how much you laughed in the movie.
Well, the problem is because of my listing, I had it by top pick. So a lot of comedies wound up being a lot lower of a spot than you'd expect.
Makes sense, yeah. Yeah, we talked about Young Frankenstein in the first 2 episodes.
Yes.
It's one of the best comedies of all time.
Yes.
With one of the best directors of all time, and one of the best comedy actors of all time.
Yep. I highly recommend it. If you just want a good, flat-out comedy, it's very good.
Oh, without a doubt. Alright. My number 48, so this one's sharing with Bryce again. Evil Dead 2.
Aha!
Yeah, this movie's very fun. All around. Don't have to take it seriously. Don't even need to watch the first. Or the other ones. This is just, well, the ones... like remake of Evil Dead, you don't have to see it. The post Evil Dead 2, I believe it was Army of Darkness.
Yes.
You can watch it. It's got the same flavor to it, but it is
It's a good movie, but I think Evil Dead 2 is above it.
Yeah, Evil Dead 2 is probably above it.
Just to give you some rankings, I ranked Evil Dead 2 a 10. It is by far one of the funniest, craziest movies I've ever seen. Army of Darkness, I believe I gave it an 8.
Yeah.
It's a good movie, but Evil Dead 2 outshines it basically in every aspect, in my opinion.
Yeah. Alright. So we have not much else to say. We talked about it enough. So.
Ready for my 49?
Yeah. 47.
Yeah, sorry, 47. 1974, Blazing Saddles.
Another Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah, they're back to back.
Yeah, so Blazing Saddles is possibly the more controversial movie out of all of his movies for understandable reasons, to say the least.
Faint of heart, do not watch this movie if you are easily offended by language.
Yeah.
This movie
especially racism.
Yeah, this movie, though, does not take itself seriously and is not actually attempting to say anything racist.
No.
This movie, matter of fact, is about how idiotic just the concept of racism is.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it just makes fun of the entire tropes of the wild frontier in a sense.
Yeah.
We have this whole bravado of being a vigilante out in the West, even though it is one of the worst experiences you can go through. Why do people love the West in that type of way? I will never understand. It's just like the same people who admire those that fought in the fucking Crusades.
Yeah.
What the fuck? You're a fucking candy ass.
Yeah. So this movie is just very funny. It does take a very much this feels like something South Park was probably very much inspired by, because this does say some very pull on the collar kind of stuff. But in my opinion, it does it in the best way.
Yeah. All right. So my number 47. This is actually one of the very few times where I'll actually give praise to an MCU movie.
Oh.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ah, okay.
Yep. I thought about either doing 1 or 2, and I thought 1 is honestly the better one of the 2 easily. So
it's just a fun film.
It really is just a fun movie. It's honestly the only Marvel movie, MCU related, I should say, Marvel movie that I could just sit down and just watch as itself, and then walk away and not have to think about the other ones.
You know what Guardians of the Galaxy feels like?
What?
Here's the best way I can probably pitch this. A lot of Marvel movies feel as if the producer is stepping in too much. Guardians of the Galaxy is if they put that movie out and the producer went, I put my name on what?
Yeah, so this movie is directed by James Gunn, and if you've never seen
this is probably his breakout movie now.
This is probably his real big breakout movie. Honestly, the weirdest thing to think about was his first ever breakout movie, genuinely, and it could have been his really biggest one, is oddly enough Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Sad reality.
The live action one.
The live action ones. My family loves them. I used to love them when I was younger, and as I grew older, I started to think, man, this has a lot of wasted potential.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll actually review those. They'll be one of the few times we'll review a bad movie, but I just think the conversation around Scooby-Doo... I
think the conversation is more interesting than the movie itself.
Yeah, way more interesting. So, yeah, but Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm one to bet everybody who's a big fan of the MCU, they love it. People that don't watch the MCU, they typically like Guardians of the Galaxy. Mostly alright. I'm mostly the camp that says, yeah, I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I like James Gunn's stuff.
It's one of the few Marvel movies I will actually put my name to, not my name to, but give my approval to. It's probably the original Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy.
For me, it would probably be, Iron Man 1, Guardians of the Galaxy, I enjoy the Spider-Man movies fine.
That's more like a Sony picture, in my opinion.
Yeah, but the one, like the MCU one with
That's still
Tom
an
Holland.
MCU, that's fair, yeah.
With Tom Holland, I believe like he's a very serviceable Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then I enjoy...
Like No Way Home is a fun film.
Yeah. And then, what was the other one I was thinking of? I know Infinity War, I do have a lot of appraisal towards, but it's
it's fine.
it's mostly fine. It's my appraisal is towards the pacing of it, because like it's so long, but yeah, good lord, you can breeze through it. Don't really care for what is it? The next major one. I did not enjoy that one bit.
Anyways.
Yeah, but either way, we're moving on.
Yes, number 46.
Yes.
Number 46, 1998, Heatwave 98.
Oh my god. So yay, cross between Catgirl and wrestling. Yeah.
This is the only one I have. This is the only pay-per-view I have on here.
I don't have a single pay-per-view on
Yeah.
I can't do it. It's like, it's really hard for me to rate a pay-per-view and never say, I would love to put it in my top 50 movies or whatever. That's not going to ever happen.
Yeah, I had 2 pay-per-views that I was rating here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only one that made my list, so.
Oddly enough, Heatwave 1998, Bryce, do you know what date that falls under?
I believe that was on August 2nd.
What's August 2nd?
Isn't that your birthday?
Yes, it is. I was literally a wee little baby in the hospital as this pay-per-view was happening up in Dayton, Ohio.
Yep.
Yes, I actually know where this thing took place in, even though I don't ever care for ECW.
Dayton, Ohio!
Yep. Yep. I was a wee little baby as all this stuff was happening. So,
yeah. If you don't watch wrestling, you're not going to get into this pay-per-view. This is a very select pick. This is very much I effing love this thing, and I wanted it on my list. So, and it wound up getting, as you can tell, it's towards the lower end, but it still had a decent rating.
There's only one pay-per-view that I could think of that I would ever actually put on my top 50. Bryce might know what it might be. 2011's Money in the Bank.
Ah, okay.
I really love that pay-per-view.
By the way, you're at number 46.
So, this is a bit of a cheat. I had a hard time picking one over the other because I feel like they both share a very similar rating. Spoiler alert, a 7 out of 10. But I feel like they both worked as the same way. And there is a third one, but I enjoyed it in a different way than was originally intended. But number 46, Spider-Man 1 and 2. The one from the early 2000s, directed by Sam Raimi.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
So wait, is this sharing, both of those movies are sharing the same slot?
Yes,
That's a bit cheap.
I do admit it's very, very cheap. I couldn't help it. I was just thinking, I really can't figure out which one I like more than the two. They are both the right amount of cheese. That if I was watching a movie that's very cheesy and it knows it's cheesy, this is about the right amount that I would
this
want.
is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to make a superhero film.
Yeah.
This is the one that popularized superhero movies. So.
Without a doubt. Jesus Christ. I loved Spider-Man when I was younger. I don't care for superhero movies nowadays.
Yeah.
However, I always have a very soft spot for Spider-Man's 1 and 2. So I did mention earlier, like, there is a third movie, and I enjoyed it for a very different reason. It's not good. It's a 4 out of 10 for me, but it's God Almighty. It's the one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. That is unintentionally hilarious. So yeah, watch the Spider-Man trilogy. It'd make you laugh at least. Anyway, yeah. Moving on. Number 45, Bryce.
Number 45. 1986. Little Shop of Horrors.
I don't care for it. I'm sorry, I don't care.
Did you rewatch it?
Yes, still didn't care for it.
Well,
it's got some good charm to it. It's just, I guess it's just not for me.
I think it's just a fun film.
Yeah, we talked about it in episode
There's some
1
good
and 2.
music. It's definitely one of those kinds of movies you not play in the background, but definitely just kind of play when you're like in just a mood to not do anything kind of movie.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about it in the first 2 episodes, so give it a watch. Alright, my number 45. The Man Who Would Be King. So I've actually mentioned this movie a few times to Bryce, and I don't believe he's ever seen it.
No, I'm not.
Alright, so this movie has one actor that Bryce has a very soft spot towards. Mr. Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Yes, it is. So
There's a Sean Connery movie on my list.
I'm not surprised in the slightest. I think this is the only Sean Connery movie that I think is actually on my list. So let me try to figure this out. So this movie is adapting a Rudyard Kipling book. Rudyard Kipling is very famous nowadays for writing the Jungle Book movies, and he has a very huge appreciation for Indian-related mythology, culture, the whole shebang, even though he has his own issues. Imperialist, I guess. But he is a very interesting writer to learn about. And The Man Who Would Be King is about 2 men who hear of a city out in what would be modern day Pakistan.
Oh, is this the one where I'm Egyptian?
Yeah, essentially they're going all the way over to the city, and it turns out that the people there in the city believe that Sean Connery's character is the son of Sikanda, or actually in English we would know him as Alexander the Great. So pretty much, yeah, this whole web of lies. Have you ever seen The Road to El Dorado? I don't know if Bryce has ever seen it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's very much the same type of story. It's very, very similar. Like, there's hardly any differences at all. It's just, instead of the two men in El Dorado being gods, it's just one man being hailed as the son or the descendant of a very powerful military leader in history.
Alright.
However, it's very fun. It's very, very fun. So, I enjoyed it a lot. So number 44.
Number 44, 2002's Catch Me If You Can.
I don't remember ever seeing it, to be honest.
It's just a fun film.
I've always heard.
My bottom line list is just a bunch of fun movies.
Yeah, I barely remember the movie at all. I don't ever actually think I actually did see it.
So, it has Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. A very young Leonardo DiCaprio.
Hey.
And it is just, it's based off true events. With the actual person it's based off of very much overseeing this movie. And it's just a weird movie. It's like, the best way I could probably describe this is just a cat and chase film. A cat and mouse film. Two people basically trying to outsmart each other using basically like bureaucratical nonsense. It's very funny.
That sounds like fun.
And it's also insanity. There's some actual like very emotional moments in it, but I recommend it if you just want a fun watch.
Okay. Alright, so mine, number 44. It's an interesting one because I'm not very high on the director per se, but I still think this is his best movie. The Terminator.
Oh, the original.
The very original, yes.
Alright.
Yeah, so James Cameron, I'm usually one that says I am not the biggest fan. Most of the time, I'm not the biggest fan of his works.
That's fair.
Mostly his like way of telling stories. It's just not my cup of tea. I think they are very flawed. And I have seen some of his other stuff, like Titanic, for example. I love the set design, but my God, I don't care for the story.
Yeah.
And then
same with Avatar.
Same with Avatar. Yes, I saw that one literally in 2018.
The story's like almost the same.
Just about. Honestly, I would just say it's more like Pocahontas meets space. I mean, it's beautiful looking, but good Lord, I just don't care for the story. And
But the movie.
the movie. So Terminator. This was his breakout movie. Honestly, I
remember he did it for like so little money as well.
Yeah, and like you have a very young Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's like it's really impressive, and it's like honestly like it's one of his better stories, like one of his better written scripts, in my opinion, and it's just like very captivating too. So if you've never seen The Terminator, it's basically like this: a man from the future comes back in time, tries to help a woman who apparently is going to birth this boy who will cause chaos in the future. And there's a robot from the future that's coming back to kill the mother, and it's like, yeah, it's literally chaos ensues. This is the movie that I would say really put Arnold Schwarzenegger as a household name for movies in general. He has
also defined him as like one of the that era's action heroes.
Yep, he's a part of like those ones like you say your Rambos, and I will always say Bruce Willis types. I forgot his character name, but same basic idea. Schwarzenegger got his name from this movie in general. So many iconic lines, so many different things. If you've never seen The Terminator, I'm surprised. But at this point, I wouldn't be too shocked, I guess. But yeah, still movies made to this day, and I still highly recommend it.
Yep. Alright, ready for mine?
Yep.
Number 43, 2015's The Martian.
Oh, yeah.
You talked about this already?
Yep.
Just a very realistic sci-fi film.
Yeah, makes sense. Came around the same time as Inception, and we talked about one of the last episodes, and it was like a little bit we share a lot of interesting comparisons.
Yep.
I think that Inception's ending really kills it for me.
Yeah. Hence why I think The Martian's a better film.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wait, no, Interstellar. I thought I said Inception. Yeah.
Interstellar.
Okay, yeah, we're good.
Anyways, continue.
Making sure. Alright, so, yeah. Actually, believe it or not, it's very like your sentimental value to the film for yourself is very similar to my next pick. The original Halloween.
Oh, we have the same slot!
Yeah, weirdly enough. So yeah, Halloween, it's one of the very first major slasher movies to hit the scene. It's not the first, it's just one of the first ones that really made...
It popularized the genre.
Popularized the genre, created all the tropes. Everything you know about a slasher movie, Halloween is definitely either done it or is it full on created it. I love John Carpenter stuff. I really admire his stuff. It's one of the biggest inspirations for my interest into directing stuff. Yeah, Halloween, very flawed, but it's very much a very interesting watch whenever you piece together what it pretty much inspired afterwards.
Alright.
It's very much akin to, like, the Earthbound for those types of video games, like those types of indie games.
I would probably more compare it to a Castlevania.
That would make a lot more sense. Earthbound was just the first one that popped in my mind. Alright, so let's moving on to number 42.
Number 42. 2020's Hamilton.
Interesting pick.
Hamilton.
Technically, it didn't come out in 2020, but it was...
the movie, quote-unquote, came out in 2020.
The movie, quote-unquote, yes.
It's technically qualified as a movie. So.
That is true. It does technically qualify as a movie. So yeah, I've only seen Hamilton once, and ever since then I did do a bunch of historical stuff, so we will have a special episode with another movie that is very similar to Hamilton, but it's not in my top 50. I'll just say it here. It is 1974's 1776. Literally 2 years. They could have just waited and just released it then, and it probably would have been more successful.
But yeah.
Two Broadway shows centered around the founding of the United States of America. However, it just centers around two very different people. John Adams in 1776, and the first Secretary of Treasury, Alexander Hamilton.
Yes, and the part that I like about this the most, so not only does it have great music, you get that out of the way, it has absolutely fantastic music.
Yeah.
But the part that I like the most is the actors just want to put on a good show, and you can tell that. They just want to put on a good show, and it feels.
Oh yeah, I definitely seen that. I have a lot more issues with it, with its, like, the way that it portrays its history. It's not like, there's a lot of, like, how I do stuff with, like, history and stuff. Most of the time, I'm more forgiving. However, there are three major things in Hamilton that I cannot look past, in which, whenever we get to that episode, I will literally break out my notes, and I will try to, my hardest to explain this whole thing, because you have, like, I don't know, it's like, you have to piece some things together, and then you start to think, oh, okay, now I get why you have an issue with it. But like I always say, it doesn't affect my overall feelings of the musical. It's very enjoyable. I mean, hell, one of my favorite songs in it is not, in my opinion, very accurate for historical purposes. It's the most fun song out of it. It's the King song, if you want to.
Oh, okay. My favorite's Remember It Happened.
That makes sense. That's the most political song out of all of them. I definitely like that song too. What was the other song that I really liked? It was the song about Alexander Hamilton's wife, and she was, like, literally burning up her letters.
Oh yeah.
If you know anything that happened, if you've ever seen the musical, you would probably know what I'm talking about. I personally love it.
It's called, like, Forgiveness or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. I'm trying not to spoil it, but it definitely highlights what us historians have to go through when we want to find out what people felt about a certain way. And, well, she literally burned the fucking evidence, and it just shows that, yeah, that's pretty much how we feel. It's like, we don't know how she felt, really.
Anyways.
But either way, yes.
The most I'm going to say about this movie is this movie dominated 2020 when it came out, and probably leaked into the next year.
Yeah, I mean, shit, it's still popular right now.
Yeah, it is ridiculously good for a reason.
Yep, makes sense. Alright, so my number 42, Kiki's Delivery Service.
Ah, yes.
Yep. So
I presume this is the first of many Ghibli movies?
No.
Really?
No. Well, actually, no, there's two other ones, but...
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, but there's only three of them. I still like Ghibli movies quite a lot. I definitely admire their work and how much effort they put into their animated stuff, but no, there's not a whole lot of Ghibli movies on here. I've seen more movies, Bryce, than you think. However, yes, I
just thought you liked Ghibli movies so much. So.
I do like Ghibli movies.
I only recall 4, so... One shy.
One shy, indeed. However, no, there's like... Kiki's Delivery Service, how do I even describe this one? I do know this was like probably my first ever Ghibli movie without even realizing it was a Ghibli movie.
I mean, that makes sense. A lot of people watch this stuff as a kid not knowing what it is.
I was around possibly like 6 or 7.
Yeah,
it was on television, and grandmother's house, saw it, liked it, didn't know the name of the movie, forgot about it for many years until one day an image or a reference came up, and I was wondering, that looks familiar, and I finally saw the movie, and I thought, yeah, I like this a lot.
Alright.
We would talk this more, like, literally all these movies are in our future episodes, so...
Yeah. We're just trying to get you a pitch. If any of this sounds interesting, then we recommend going watch this. There's a reason why it's on top 50.
Yes.
So.
Alright, number 41.
Number 41. 1982's The Wrath of Khan.
Star Trek, everybody. I have no recollection of ever watching anything Star Trek related, whether it be the late 2000s movies of Star Trek. Never seen the original television show. Probably never even seen a full-on episode of any Star Trek related media, despite Bryce insisting on me watching something like Star Trek: The Next Generation.
No, I would recommend DS9 for you.
Well, I know DS9, but I know it was the next.
Well, you probably watched Next Generation before then.
The Next Generation was the one that you really tried to entice me to see,
Yeah.
because you think I would like that the most.
Well, I think you would like DS9 the most, but I think you would also still really like Next Generation. There's just one problem Next Generation I don't think you would like, because it has a very idealistic look about stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense.
But yeah, the reason why I also want to say about this movie is you're probably have at least a concept of what Star Trek is. This movie is Star Trek. This movie embodies it. And one final thing I'm going to say about this movie, because I'm not going to say too much, because this is just a good sci-fi film. Mm. But what I want to say, one last thing about the movie is that this movie took what was a nothing, one-off episodic villain from Star Trek and made it the best Star Trek villain of all time.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I still don't know very much about Star Trek.
The only thing, you only need to know minimal information about Star Trek, in which case you'll get that from mainstream media.
Probably. Makes sense. Alright, so that's Star Trek, Wrath of Khan, or however you say it.
Yep, Wrath of Khan.
Cool. Anyway, my number 41, the original Blade Runner, the final cut. Yep. So
by the way, Blade Runner just missed my list.
Wow.
It was ranked 52.
And you were the one that was saying, like, I prefer the original one more.
Yeah.
I have it here in my top 50. Okay. So yeah, Blade Runner is the original one that was directed by Ridley Scott.
Yep.
The only Ridley Scott in my top 50, if I can think right now. And yeah, this one popularized the genre, or at least the very much beloved world type of cyberpunk.
Yes, definitely did that. It also wound up leading to a lot of the ideas of more gritty sci-fi. Because before this, good thing we're talking about Wrath of Khan previously, Wrath of Khan had the very much more sleek style that very much not popularized, but mainstreams the idea of a sleeker kind of world.
Yep.
Then you would wind up having Star Wars come in and wind up turning it into like a Wild West kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. And then Blade Runner come along and turn that into more of a gritty reality.
Yeah. Like, it definitely highlights the more gritty reality of, like, what a future could be like. And Blade Runner definitely has the whole dystopian feel of what the sci-fi genre really could do. And literally, Blade Runner, it is still an amazing movie. So why did I say the final cut? Well, this movie has a lot of cuts.
Yes.
It's got a lot of different ones. You have the director's cut. I mean, each of these cuts, how much am I understanding of the cuts? Each cut could be considered its own movie in some weird way. Because like it could change up some of the certain scenes and certain characters and even the story.
Blade Runner, the original one, is a very complex movie. And because of how many cuts there are, the complexity of it changes so much because of it.
Yeah. And I watched the final cut in anticipation for Blade Runner 2049 all the way back in 2017. And I just thought the final cut is usually the one that most people would say is probably the superior one. So I said, fine. Watched it. Loved it. And when I watched Blade Runner 2049, I was head over heels for it. And yeah. Still, Blade Runner, it's an iconic piece of media from the 1980s. You still see its influence to this day, especially in the realm of video games, like Cyberpunk, for example. Never played it, but I would like to see it actually play it someday when it actually does work.
I mean, it's getting there further every month.
There's another game that's inspired by Cyberpunk related stuff, but it's instead of as a human being, you're playing as a cat.
Oh, I think I've heard about that.
Stray.
Yeah.
So,
anyways,
yes.
Games,
Yeah. Well, we always talk about games. Movies and games, they very much interlap between each other. It's really weird. However, yes, so Blade Runner, we would definitely talk about this movie in the near future.
Absolutely. Alright.
Number 40.
Number 40, 1957, 12 Angry Men.
Makes sense, yep. Oh, yeah, we talked about this movie a lot. It's going to be in the future episodes.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything, because this is a must-watch for everyone.
It really is. If you want to be somebody that really wants to go knee-deep into movies and what they can do, well, look no further than 12 Angry Men. It's in the top 5 of IMDb's top 200 for a very good reason. It's definitely a fantastic piece of filmmaking.
Absolutely. All right.
My number 40, Akira.
All right.
Yeah.
Another one we talked about before.
Yeah, the only one we talked about before. Yeah, a fantastic animated piece. Story has got a lot of problems, but I still say the animation is the one that is the real star of the show.
Yeah.
All around, we don't have to say too much about it. Just go check it out if you want to see some good animation.
All right.
All right, number 39.
All right. 39. 1983. Groundhog Day.
Oh man, I'm surprised it's gone this down.
Yeah, a lot of comedies got shafted, as I said.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we talked about Groundhog Day. It's a phenomenal piece of comedy. Again, Bill Murray. You can't really knock him out with anything.
Yeah, second Bill Murray film we've done so far. So.
Without a doubt, another Bill Murray.
And this is, in my opinion, probably his best work. So
I can definitely see that.
The icon, Bill Murray, probably one of the most recognizable actors out there. Mm-hmm. And this is his best work. So.
Oh yeah. Alright, so my number 39, another movie we talked about before, Back to the Future. The first one. You're gonna make me. We're gonna get a copyright strike because of you. Anyway.
You think I'm that good at my tone? Are you kidding?
What better at it than you think? Anyway, yes, Back to the Future. So, you know, I almost came close to saying the whole trilogy, but after thinking about it, yeah, the last 2 movies, they are not worthy of being in the top 50. I just thought that Back to the Future 1 is a fantastic one on its own.
Back to the Future is like the pinnacle of plot line and dialogue. Yeah. It is probably the poster child for it.
Yeah, I can see that. Literally, there's not much we can ever really say. This movie is so iconic, not just from its generation, but to this very day.
Yes.
It's always going to be referenced at this point. So, without a doubt, yeah, go hop into DeLorean and go watch this movie.
All right.
You're number 38.
Number 38. 1982, First Blood.
What was First Blood?
This is the one that popularized the character of Rambo.
Oh,
Despite Rambo not being in the title of the movie. Every single following one had Rambo in the title.
Yeah.
This is the only one because Rambo is not supposed to be, like, I shouldn't say major player, but is not supposed to be the selling point of this movie.
Ha ha ha, said the audience.
But, I'm not going to spoil anything about this movie, but if you're thinking, oh, this is just some Rambo movie, you're underestimating this movie. This movie has a lot of complexity in it.
Yeah. It's been forever since I've seen this movie, but literally whenever you said First Blood, I was like, that movie sounds so familiar.
Yes.
It's just, I don't
It's a good action film, but it goes a lot deeper than that.
Yeah. Alright, so let's move on to my number 38, Birdman.
Ah, okay.
Yep. So originally my number 1 last year. It shot down quite a lot. I still admire this movie quite a lot. It's very, very well done. Really well technical-wise. Done amazingly.
Yes.
And of course the script is pretty solid in its own right, but I feel like the technical work is what I think shines through.
It's this movie and Russian Ark and I believe Rope, who are remembered as the 3 movies that did it in a single shot.
Yep. So. I believe 1917 did it as well, but I have its issues with, like, everybody, whenever they saw 1917, they praised the whole one-take aspect, but whenever I watched the movie, I thought, it's not that impressive. Really. I thought Birdman did it a lot better, and it had a lot more subtlety to it. I could tell when there was, like, a jump cut where there was actually editing done to make it seem like it was one shot. I didn't enjoy 1917 nearly as much. This
movie is, sadly, Hamilton we already talked about, but this movie, outside of actual Hamilton, is, I guess the best way to describe this is theatrical cinema.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's literally about a play, so that makes sense. So.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Number 37.
Oh, yes. Number 37, 1975, Jaws.
I almost put Jaws on here somewhere because I had to think I needed to put that movie somewhere because that is the penultimate of suspense that I've ever seen.
Yes.
Because literally the first scene of the movie, it is so iconic and it is a perfect thing to look at when you think of, like, say for example, there's one person we can always turn towards where this movie, you can see where Jaws got its inspiration from. Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes.
The master of suspense. And literally the first scene in the movie, it is so iconic in that you can feel so much tension in that movie, and you know how the rest of the movie's going to be. And I mean, look, the shark looks very fake. It's 1970s. You got to give it some credit.
What I'm going to say about this movie before moving on is this movie made a generation terrified of the ocean. Including me.
I'm still terrified of the ocean, but it's not just
This is the opposite for me.
I know it's the opposite for you.
Because this movie made me fascinated in the ocean.
I'm fascinated by the ocean as well. However, I always have a hard time swimming in it because of the shark aspect. But I'm terrified of the ocean for the idea of it being so vast that we don't know so much about it.
Agoraphobia, I believe is the word for that.
That's the one. I think it is right.
Anyways, continue.
Alright, so number 37. It's very similar to one of my earlier picks, in which it's technically multiple movies, but if I had to narrow it down to one, it would be the first one, The Lord of the Rings.
Fellowship of the Ring.
Yep. Fellowship of the Ring would probably be the one if I had to pick out of the three. Fellowship is a movie that I would say, it makes me so angry because of how perfect it is. I literally would say, I hate this movie because it's so damn perfect.
It's probably the best fantasy movie of all time.
Fantasy series of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, look, this movie, like these set of movies, on its own right, inspired. I don't even want to say inspired. Come on, this is not even inspired. What is Hollywood ever inspired to do anything good stuff? They pretty much like wanted to take all their beloved children's book series or anything like that and adapt them into multiple movies like Lord of the Rings. I mean, we had it with the Golden Compass, the freaking Narnia movies. They all tried to do what the Lord of the Rings did, and they just didn't. They never could ever lived up to that hype, or ever live up to that whole, live up to the whole, I guess. Yeah, that's left by Lord of the Rings.
The thing is with Lord of the Rings, I'm going to say this, and I think we should move on, is that Lord of the Rings was the foundation. The books were the foundation for fantasy.
Yes.
And people are inspired by the movies. Mm-hmm. They watch the movies and they fall in love. They don't start with the books, they start with the movies, and that's how they fall in love. That's how good this is that people immediately are like, watch the movies.
Yes. I have seen the movies first, but I did read the books next, and I still... Well, actually, I do love the movies very much so, but I still do have to admit, I love J.R.R. Tolkien's writing style. I really love it, and without a doubt,
it's one of the few series that I would say there is very rarely in the fandom that people have an argument of the movie's better, the book's better. They just agree that they go hand in hand.
Yeah, pretty much about everything, right? Alright, so number 36.
Number 36. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, 2003.
Okay. Yeah, these movies are very much talked about nowadays because of the whole trial that was happening.
I loved them well before that.
I know you love them. I know I wouldn't doubt it that much, but it's like, those movies have had a lot more resurgence nowadays because everybody wants to see.
But Curse of the Black Pearl is the main one I'm talking about. The first one.
Yes, the first one. Saw it a long time ago, but rarely remember much about it.
This is the movie that, so, just to give you a little bit of a preface, in Hollywood, they have something idea as the dead genre. There are genres that can never, ever be made again. The audiences will never watch them. This movie completely defied it. It defied expectations because Disney was not going to make this movie. They were like, because they had the idea, pirate movies do not sell. People do not like movies about pirates.
It's very similar to that of Lord of the Rings, in that nobody in their right mind would make a fantasy movie that is high budgeted and have audiences go and see them and break records.
Yeah.
But Pirates of the Caribbean did it with the pirate genre. They did it.
Yeah. Because before this, the last, pirate genre film, the last one, I believe, was, in the 50s. Mm-hmm. And it bombed bad. So...
I don't know. I thought there was another pirate movie 10 years before. However, that one was with the fucking Muppets. I don't think it was that successful, but I remember a lot of people saying they liked it.
If you count the Peter Pan series, some stuff changes, so...
Yeah, maybe so.
Anyways.
So yeah, number 36 for me. We talked about this earlier. Inception.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It was going to be mentioned again, like I said. So yeah, we ain't going to spend too much on it. Literally, yeah, we'll talk about it soon enough.
Yes.
So, number 35.
Well, luckily we're getting the movie we already talked about, Back to the Future in 1985.
Yet again, yeah, we talked about it a minute ago.
So, yep.
Alright, my number 35. Apollo 13.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting.
Second Tom Hanks film.
Mm-hmm. And another, a movie based on a historical event. This is my one that I would say it is one of the penultimate ones of, this movie doesn't change so much of the original story. So what happened was Apollo 13 was where we were set to fly up into the moon, do the same thing what Neil Armstrong and then did, fly to the moon, land there, come back, end of story. But midway through the travel between Earth and from the Earth to the moon, a malfunction happened, and they literally had so little time, and they just had to loop around the moon to make it back to Earth, or else they would have been dead.
Yeah, so this is based off, I believe, was qualified as one of the most disastrous events in space travel.
Yes.
It could not including Soviets.
Yes.
The Soviets probably made the top 10.
Possibly, yes. However, good lord, it's not even just the Soviets. I mean, like, recently we're starting to learn about what China and them have been doing with their space travel as early as back in the 1990s. But, yeah, Apollo 13 is possibly the most famous space-related disaster from the United States' area. And it is possibly the one that I would say it is what I would always like to strive for if I was ever making a movie based off of true events. It highlights all the important details. It gets down the people that were involved to a T. It literally doesn't change. It doesn't change anything to the point that it hurts its narrative. I think this was just pretty much the perfect movie based off of true events, and it definitely does say if it had based on a true story, I would say that's about pretty much how the story went. I really had no issues with it. All around, yeah, it's a good movie. Tom Hanks is great. All around, this whole movie's really good, so I can't wait to talk about it more soon.
Yep. All right.
Number 34.
Number 34, 2001's No Man's Land. So, this movie, if I remember, what's the name of the war? The Crimean War? Where it was basically a small Balkan affair, and what winds up happening is a diplomatic situation happens with two soldiers, and it's not known who is the correct prisoner of war here. And the UN is basically trying to determine that without influencing the actual war.
Yes.
And it is an absolute bureaucratical nightmare.
Oh my god.
It is a hilarious comedy. It is absolute insanity with, like, it is insane because this is inspired by true events, if I remember correctly. All the names are changed, and, like, this happened, but not in a very, cinematic way. So they changed a lot of the events that happened, changed all the events, and we're like, it's inspired by. And it's absolute insanity, and it's just, it's like, oh my gosh, this is insane how people are acting like this.
Yep. Oh my god. I don't really have much to say about the movie. I don't think I've ever actually seen it.
I would recommend it. I think you would really enjoy it personally.
Awesome. Alright, so my number 34. This is a director that I have a very strange fascination with. Me and Bryce have talked about it a lot with another friend of ours. The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
So M. Night Shyamalan, where do I begin with this man?
I don't think you do.
I don't think you can. So if you don't know...
all I'm going to say about this movie, because this movie does have spoiler territory quite heavily.
Yes.
But, because of that, I'm only going to say one thing about it. This movie when it first came out, people were saying that this movie was going to make M. Night Shyamalan the next Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
That's how, just think of Steven Spielberg with what he is. They were saying that M. Night Shyamalan, with this movie, was making him the next Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. However, that did not really exactly happen.
Yeah, that did not happen, so.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more. I really want to dedicate an entire episode just talking about M. Night Shyamalan, and there's not really going to be a set movie to really watch. I'm just going to possibly give you a list of movies, pretty much all of them, and we're going to talk about some of the movies, or at least memories that we have with this man, because literally, you can just dedicate an episode of this man's entire life story, and you can just go knee-deep into it. I find it fascinating. This guy's a character to me. He's my first and ever one true love. Yes. Well, true love in the baddest way possible. So yes. Number 33.
Number 33. Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee.
I've heard about this movie. I know Spike Lee is very much so. He is he's a captivating figure like M. Night Shyamalan, but not in the wrongest ways in my opinion.
Yeah, so, just to give you a little bit of a preface about this, this movie is a slice of life, basically, about a heat wave on a single street. Well, not a heat wave on a single street, but this is taking place on a single street in Brooklyn during one of the hottest heat waves in New York.
Makes sense.
And yeah, you're basically for this whole movie just following small characters as small stories playing out. This very much has like a My Neighbor Totoro kind of thing going on, where it's basically just a bunch of people playing around and doing things up until the very end of the movie.
However, it's not like My Neighbor Totoro, in which it's very
Yeah,
nice.
it's
not like it's nice and cute or anything. No, we're dealing with a lot of issues.
Yeah, this movie does tackle race very heavily.
Yeah, it doesn't hold back at all.
It does not. And on top of it, this movie is also just hilarious.
Yeah, this movie is very, very hilarious. Like, no joke. Oh, man. The more, like, I can't wait to talk about this movie sometime later on. Spike Lee is very interesting to me as well. Still making movies to this day, so...
I highly recommend this movie to people.
Oh, yeah.
If you can take the racial stuff, then 100% you should watch this movie.
Yes. Alright, so number 33. First controversial movie, I guess, in a sense, with this next one, Come and See. So, in my opinion, Come and See. So there's we have always talked, me and Bryce have talked about World War II movie-related stuff on our list and in this podcast. Talked about Schindler's List, The Great Dictator. We even mentioned a little bit of Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
However, Come and See is a movie that was made in Russia, so a Soviet Union era movie, that talks about when Germany invaded the Soviet Union in the 1940s during World War II. And this movie, in my personal opinion, if it's not Schindler's List, that is the best World War II related movie out there. This is it right here. This movie,
high praise.
I'm literally giving it the most amount of praise I can. This movie does not hold back. This movie's not for the faint of heart. You think, even if you think you are going to be okay going through this movie, I don't think you will.
Oh.
This movie does not hold back. If I had to show certain clips of this movie, I would be hesitant to do so because I can't sugarcoat this. This movie's hard. It's really hard. Because, it literally takes some of the eyewitness accounts of what happened when they were invading. Because, it wasn't just, the cities that the Germans went through. They went through villages, and they just plundered them. It does not show the heroic side of war. It does not show anything like, say, what The Patriot has shown, or whatever that other shitty movie that Mel Gibson did.
Braveheart.
Braveheart, yes. This movie, I will, honest to God, put up there as the best and most accurate movie of World War II related stuff I've ever seen. It will drop your heart in a second. So, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is going to be a rough movie to get to when we talk about it. It's in the future list. Bryce, I hope to God you're not going to kill me afterwards. I'm not kidding. This movie is not easy to get through.
Alright.
So, yeah, very much. I have a lot of praise for this movie, but good God, I could not see myself ever putting it higher than the 30s or something. Maybe one day, but no way right now. So, either way, yeah, moving on to number 32.
Number 32, 2017's The Death of Stalin.
I've heard a lot of interesting stuff about The Death of Stalin.
This movie is... So this movie, once again, I shouldn't say based off true events.
It definitely is much of a historical spoof. Making fun
it's more
of
inspired by true events.
Inspired, spoof.
But it is definitely a spoof.
Yes. And pretty much, I know what this movie's about. I've never seen it, but I've always had one history friend that did see it, and they have very mixed opinions on it, in which, yeah, maybe I'll get in touch with him later on. I'll ask him, hey, what was the issues with it, as soon as I see the movie. But this movie is basically around the dictator Joseph Stalin of the Soviet Union and the circumstances that happened surrounding his death and after his death.
Yep.
In which the Soviet Union's inner bureaucracy was another chaos.
Yeah, it is. This movie is like watching a bunch of children stumble over each other for 2 hours. It's so funny. In which case, it's like these people are the leaders of one of the biggest global powers in the world.
Yeah. All around, I never saw this movie, and I'm very curious to see on how it is. So
it's definitely a dark comedy.
Oh yeah, it's been on my watch list for a long time. It's just I never got around to watching it. So hopefully soon we'll get to it.
Yep.
Right, my number 32, another controversial movie actually.
I guess Death of Stalin's kind of controversial in Russia.
Maybe, yeah. However, mine is probably a little bit more controversial for here in the States.
Yeah.
American Psycho.
Ah, okay.
Yep. So this movie, very big. I guess a very big preface, like we mentioned earlier. This movie is controversial in a lot of ways of its sexual violence and treatment towards women and some men. However, it's mostly towards the women. The book is very controversial. However, I personally love the movie for the performance of Christian Bale. This was the movie I think put his name on the map. I mean, heck, the 2000s was a great decade for him.
Yeah.
Batman, American Psycho. I can think of a few other movies, but they're probably not as famous for. But all around Christian Bale, I love his work. However, American Psycho, that is a tough movie to talk about. I love the movie, but I can understand fully why people may not like it.
Yeah, it's been some time, but I remember me not being as hot on it. So
I wouldn't say I'm hot on it either, but I would definitely give a lot of appraisal towards Christian Bale. I really loved his interesting performance. And then there's other people as well. I enjoyed William Dafoe's performance. I mentioned his praises a lot. He's got a very nuanced performance in one of the scenes that I really, really love. So all around, I really enjoy American Psycho, but I 100% understand why people may not like it. Or may not be in high praise for it.
Alright.
However, let's move on to number 31.
Number 31. 1929's The Man with the Movie Camera.
1939.
1929.
Oh, man, wow, that's very far.
Yeah, so this is a silent film.
Okay.
And I cannot recommend this to anyone unless you absolutely love movies. Because this movie is very odd. And just to give you a little bit of need-to-know information, because the movie only gives you a little bit of a snippet of it, this movie was made by a Russian man who believed the only movies that should exist are documentaries. And this movie is his attempt to capture the average day in a Russian city. And this movie has a lot of weird visuals and a lot of odd things like being done. But a lot of it is just him filming people in Russia.
Okay.
In the late 1920s.
Interesting.
So this movie doesn't have a lot to talk about outside of, well, it has a lot to talk about, but like not a lot to talk about if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who has like dabbling interest in movies, I can't recommend it. You have to be very interested in them to even enjoy this movie.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay. Anything else, Bryce?
I have a lot, but it's going to be saved for when we talk about this movie later.
Okay. All right, number 31 for me. Another controversial one. So 3 controversial movies in a row.
Amazing.
Thankfully, should be one of the last ones. Fight Club.
I wouldn't say this is that controversial.
I don't know. There's a lot of subject matter that is a little bit controversial, but
I mean, it can be.
It can be, but
this is definitely a cult film.
Oh, very much so. So, honestly, I'm going to follow the rules of Fight Club and not really say much at all because you're not supposed to.
Yeah, this movie is better just going in blind. All you really need to know for this movie is that it does say some hard stuff.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to agree with a lot of it.
No.
But it does say a lot of hard stuff, and it does say some interesting stuff that you should at least pay attention to.
Thought-provoking, too.
Yes, and even if you disagree with it, you should listen to it.
Yeah.
Because God knows everyone disagrees with at least something in this movie.
I don't doubt it. I might disagree with it a lot in some instances, but still, I think the movie is very fascinating to study at. So, without a doubt, yeah, check it out. Fight Club. Just don't talk about it.
Yeah. All right, number 30?
Mm-hmm.
2011's The Cabin in the Woods.
Okay, I have a lot of sentimental value for this movie. I never put it in my top 50, even though I know I should have, because I'm more of a fan of slasher movies just because I think they're so dumb but fun at the same time. Oh my god. Hopefully we can talk a lot about slasher movies, so the pinnacle of all this is leading towards Cabin in the Woods, because you need to see slasher movies, the horror genre of slashers in general, before you see Cabin in the Woods, because it's a love letter and a giant satire of slashers in general.
Yeah. In which case, how I got to the Cabin in the Woods is a very weird story that I'll tackle later. Yeah.
Okay, then.
It's very weird, but yes, this is definitely a love letter to slashers.
Yes. Alright, my number 30. Spirited Away.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So me and Bryce, we've hinted at it a little bit on what we have issues with Spirited Away. I do plan to hopefully we'll tackle this more so later on down the road. I really want to plan out maybe a smallish Ghibli episode where I would like to talk more about Ghibli and why I might love them a lot and why I might have some issues with them. But
so, all I'm going to say for this is very, very quick is absolutely beautiful movie. It's probably one of the most beautifully animated movies out there, outside like maybe Akira or something.
Yes.
Like we're talking like absolutely beautiful. Not just like in the animation sense, just raw beautiful. And it has a very good story. I only have one problem with it, in which case it tries to force a love story at some point, even though the movie is not about that.
Pretty much.
That's the only problem I have with it, but other than that, it's absolutely amazing.
My personal love for this movie is very much similar to Bryce's, is that I think this movie is very beautiful, and I very much enjoy the many different designs of all these different characters that are inspired by Shinto-related stuff. That's one of my major appraisals for Miyazaki, is that his influence on the Shinto folklore and like tradition is just nearly insane. And he has such a wild imagination and how he can just mesh different things into one that could be a very, very coherent piece. It is just, that love story is where my issues mostly come from. But all around, this movie won Best Animated Picture for a reason. I'm very happy that it did. It definitely does deserve it. And it definitely does deserve a lot of its praisals for at least popularizing anime here in the West.
Yeah.
So all around, if you've never seen Spirited Away, for one, I'm pretty shocked. If you're watching this on the internet, at least, I mean, you have the more casual people, they probably never saw it, but all around, go check out this movie. It's very interesting. We will talk about it soon again.
All right.
Number 29. We're getting closer.
So we're in the 20s now.
Yes, we are.
All right, number 29. 1995's 12 Monkeys.
I have no recollection of this movie.
So, Rasmus Willis and Brad Pitt. And this movie is based off of a French silent film.
Yes.
Experimental film. And this movie is one of the best examples I could probably just point to as the feeling of actual insanity. Or at least feeling insane. Because this movie, it is a time travel film, so a little bit of spoilers about that. But this movie definitely, not only through great cinematography, but being able to actually insinuate this from one of Brad Pitt's weirdest performances, is able to give this feeling of not being able to really understand the world, this sort of dissociation. And it does this in such an interesting, weird way, while also having a surprisingly complex story. I highly recommend this movie, but it's also just one of those watches that is I can understand not everyone being able to be getting into it.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so my number 29. Alright, so here we go. This is a movie that I really do as well enjoy. However, it's a very weird movie, I guess to say the least, but I don't know. From my recollection, it's a little bit weird, but number 29, There Will Be Blood.
Okay.
Yep, so this movie tackles around the oil industry. However, this is early 1900s stuff, and all around, I think this movie is just fantastic.
Yeah.
It just it's adapting a book by, I believe, Upton Sinclair. I have a lot of appraisals for Upton Sinclair. I like The Jungle, and I would love to see an actual adaptation of it someday. However, good lord, that'll be a tough one to do, because I think there's some parts of the book that is not most people tend to forget about it, but maybe we'll talk about it one day. But There Will Be Blood is all around just a fantastic movie. It shares in 2007. It shares a distinction with me of me saying 2007 is one of the strongest years of movies. Period. It has No Country for Old Men that released that same year. There's a few other ones as well. So hopefully one day I'll actually get to talk about it soon, but there is a couple more 2007 related movies in here.
Okay.
So we'll talk about it soon.
Alright.
Number 28.
Number 28. 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. We talked about this one already.
Yeah.
It defined the adventure genre going forward. It probably made a lot of people in college, or at least people who were employed in college, very annoyed by the amount of people changing their majors at the time.
Probably, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, we talked about it before. Just go out and see it. It'll make a lot more sense once you see it. It's something that you just really can't describe unless it's a book. In which, why would you describe a book? It's kind of boring. However, yeah. Alright. Speaking of stuff adapted by a book, number 28, Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
So yeah, this one was in the bottom half of the top 20, and it definitely has shot down. Not too terribly much, but still a decent amount. I still very much enjoy its technical work. It's definitely one of Kubrick's very best. However, the whole subject matter relating to it is something that is pretty hard to stomach or really defend. I don't even know if defend would be a right word to put it, but it is a controversial movie in its own right. So all around, yeah, we talked about this movie originally, so if you want more of that, just go back to the very beginning part of the first 2 episodes and you'll get to understand a little bit more.
Yep.
Number 27.
Number 27. 2001's Ocean's 11.
Okay.
With George Clooney. Probably the only movie he's going to appear on this list, I'm pretty sure.
Your list?
I'm pretty sure both our lists. Does George Clooney appear on any of yours?
Well, see.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Alright. I never
wait, there's probably one movie that appears on your list with him in.
You probably might know.
Don't
say it. Alright, so anyway, I've actually never seen Ocean's 11.
It's just a very interesting movie. So it's a heist film.
Yes, I know that.
In which case, it's about a guy recruiting 10 other people. In which case, this movie has, in my opinion, it is one of the top pyramids, like of the top, of a heist movie plan. Because this movie is able to do its plan so well and do it with a twist. So I can't spoil too much of it, but it does such a great way of being able to defy expectations and be able to be funny too. And also on top of this, it's just it's just one of those movies where you just feel so glad for these guys.
Oh man, wasn't it? I believe not really technically have seen it. It's just I've seen so many different TV shows just spoof this plot of Ocean's 11 more so than I can probably count. And I probably would know one thing or another. And it's just like, okay, whatever. But I'll just try to keep that out of my head whenever I watch Ocean's 11.
It is one of those movies that has been spoofed to hell. So
yeah, it makes sense. All right, so number 27. If you have nothing else, Bryce.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pulp Fiction.
The
penultimate of how to use dialogue in a very clever way in a movie. If it's not Back to the Future, it's going to be Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
This movie is always referenced by everybody. In my opinion, I would say this is probably the internet's favorite movie.
Absolutely.
This
movie gave Tarantino the title The King of Dialogue.
Yeah, I can see that. This movie also very much put helped Samuel L. Jackson's career a lot.
Absolutely.
And it just further insinuated John Travolta's career. This movie created one of the most iconic duos of all time.
Yep.
And all around, yeah. If you've never seen this movie, I'm pretty much surprised. However, I may not say I am very high praise towards it, but I have a very interesting view, in my personal opinion, on this movie. And it is centered around the dialogue. I personally love this movie for how the characters use their language and how they talk. I mean, heck, one of our first introductions to a character is her mouth and her just talking.
Yeah.
We don't see her at all until just a little bit more.
Yeah, like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, 5 minutes later, in which we're introduced to her, in which it's just that's not the main focus of her. It's just her talking and stuff.
Yep.
In which, yeah, it's just like, and how they use the dialogue and pretty much that whole scene relating to her towards the end of her quote arc is just really interesting. It's like, there's no actual love, and you might actually know what I'm talking about, Bryce. I'm trying not to spoil this movie. It's like, it's just a simpler compassion with each other.
Yeah, so what I want to mainly get home with this movie is it has absolutely amazing dialogue, and this movie is told through character pieces. Yes. So it tackles several different characters through several different things, not necessarily tied in with the same story. It just kind of tells a bunch of small stories in a bunch of small, interesting ways, and does all of this through a very particular style of dialogue that's very fun, honestly.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's called some of the best dialogue of all time, because it is.
Yeah.
There's like multiple scenes where characters are just sitting around talking, and you can just sit there and listen to them for hours.
Oh yeah. Yep. All around, yeah. So definitely check this movie out. I'm willing to bet it's going to be mentioned again sometime soon.
Alright.
So number 26.
Number 26. 1964's Goldfinger.
Haven't seen it.
It's a James Bond film.
I'm not surprised.
Sean Connery.
Oh my fucking god.
This is probably the best Bond film, in my opinion.
I can see that.
This is... so if you enjoy James Bond, you like this movie. If you don't enjoy James Bond, you won't like it, because this is the most James Bond movie. It has all the things you could possibly think about with James Bond. It has all the gadgets, the girls, it has him acting like the suave spy, and it has, in my opinion, the best villain and possibly the best henchman in a Bond film of all time. And on top of all of that, it has an absolutely ridiculous story. It's just a fun, ridiculous action movie watch.
I haven't seen it.
And on top of that,
oh,
probably the best opening title sequence of all time.
I was about to say, we probably have all seen it at this point. It's been spoofed to hell as well.
Yeah.
So
This is probably one of the most spoofed James Bond movies as well. Because it's the most James Bond movie, so you probably want to spoof this one.
Okay. Alright, so my number 26, another Tarantino movie. My personal favorite, actually.
Oh.
Inglourious Bastards.
Ah!
Yep. So this movie is pretty much making fun of the Germans again in World War II. Another major interlap between it. So I honestly don't want to say too much about it because it has been a long time since I've seen it, but I still think this is one of the best poking fun at the Germans in general that you can literally dissect this movie and you can get a lot of interesting stuff out of it. It's one of Tarantino's smartest pieces. So but it's still great.
What I'm also going to say about this movie, Tarantino defended his title of King of Dialogue by being able to do such great dialogue in this movie in multiple different languages.
Mm-hmm.
This movie has sections in French. This movie has sections in German. This movie has sections in English. There's
Italian.
Kind of a section in Italian.
Giorno.
Buongiorno.
Oh yeah, all around, we're gonna talk about this movie again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Lord have mercy, the less that's said about this movie, the better. So,
alright.
25. We are halfway through.
Yes. Number 25, 1994, Pulp Fiction.
Wow! How original! Alright.
You already talked about it. We have it so close to each other on our placements.
Yeah.
It's just, once again, some of the best dialogue in film of all time.
Yeah, it makes sense. Alright, so my number 25. Remember earlier how you mentioned you were going to only have the one George Clooney movie on your list? That's a lie, because I have Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got you that time, didn't I? Alright, so Fantastic Mr. Fox, a Wes Anderson movie, haha, and believe it or not, stop motion.
Yeah.
I'm very much a big fan of stop motion, even though I don't have hardly any of them on here. This is the only one. Technically, if you want to count Evil Dead 2, which it does have stop motion in it, but
it does have stop motion.
How about this? Overall, purely stop motion, Fantastic Mr. Fox is the only one, and this was the first ever Wes Anderson movie I've ever seen. Still love it to this day. Oh boy, how do you start this? How would you describe this movie? It's based off of a Ronald Dahl book, same guy who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and pretty much, you pretty much have a fox named Mr. Fox, and pretty much it goes like this. He wants to relive his glory days, however, it is very dangerous in what he was doing, like hunting farm animals and stuff. He wants to steal from these three men, and yeah, all around we start to see his whole world crumble around him a little bit. This whole movie is just all around really great. Yeah, have you ever seen this movie, Bryce?
No.
Really?
No.
I'm very surprised.
And I've been on my watch list for a while, and you said you were going to show it to me, and I've been waiting for you to show it to me. So,
I actually don't. I guess so. I barely even remember. So
because if I remember correctly, it was coming out, and you're like, "We're gonna go."
No, it was Isle of Dogs.
Oh, it was Isle of Dogs. That's what it was.
Yes, that was the one I wanted to go see so bad. Didn't see it yet.
Alright.
It's the second stop motion movie if you don't know what it is. So, all around, we will talk about those two movies sometime very soon.
Yes.
So.
Anyways.
All right, number 24.
2014's The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, love it.
So great.
Oh yeah.
We talked about it at length. Go and watch it. It's great for if you're just wanting to watch a casual movie on your own. Absolutely fantastic. If you're wanting to do a deep dive in movies, Even better.
All right. Let's see here. So my number 24, 127 hours.
I was actually calling that you were going to put that on your list.
Yeah.
I was supposed to make top 20.
No, it's gotten close. It was very close. I was really sitting down on it thinking for a bit, and I thought, it's not yet. Not yet. However, yeah. So 127 hours. It is basically surrounded around this man who was hiking around in a, I believe it would be like around, say, like Arizona or New Mexico. He was around in a canyon or something like that. Didn't tell anybody where he was going. And then all of a sudden, he slipped up and he got his arm trapped by a boulder inside of a small chasm for literally 127 hours and would film himself just trying to find a way to get out and just talking about his life.
Yep.
And it is fascinating.
Yep. This movie made everyone realize that James Franco's a serious actor.
Yeah.
Because previously he was just a comedian. One of Seth Rogen's buddies. And after this movie, yeah, he's a serious actor.
Mm-hmm. He definitely gave a very sublime performance in this movie, without a doubt. And yeah, it just helped catapult him into actual serious stardom.
Yeah.
So all around, yeah, like go check this movie out. It's very fascinating to me. So yeah. All right, so number 23.
Number 23, 1984's This Is Spinal Tap.
Never seen it.
It's hilarious. So this popularized the idea of a mockumentary. This is not real, but it is pretending to be a real documentary about a band, basically on its final legs of stardom.
That just sounds amazing.
It is hilarious, and the people. So just to give you an idea about this movie, obviously this came out, and it became so popular. The actors actually published real albums up to 4 years after that, and got invited to play at Freddie Mercury's memorial concert.
You know, that is true. Now that's just a all around trophy. In its own right.
That just to show you how good and funny this movie is.
Oh man, I need to see this movie.
It's really funny. We're definitely gonna talk about it further.
All right. So my number 23, The Incredibles.
Ah, okay.
All right, so yeah, Pixar movie. And
I'm going to tell you something a little surprising.
Let me guess. You've never seen it.
I have never seen it.
I'm not surprised, honestly. All right, so The Incredibles.
This is one of those movies that every time I tell someone I've never seen The Incredibles, every time they lose their crap.
Okay. Because I know you have told me this before, so
Yeah.
I'm not that surprised. So how can I talk about The Incredibles? So, first off, I would say this. I'm a very big fan of Brad Bird. This is not the only Brad Bird movie in this list. And we've actually talked about it before, so you probably know if you've been listening to this podcast for a bit. So yeah, Brad Bird. He has made different animated movies, one of whom was The Iron Giant. I have no idea if you've ever seen that one.
Nope.
Huh. We'll talk about it soon again, I hope. So pretty much The Incredibles. This movie pretty much tackles superheroes, and it just turns a little bit of the tropes on its head. It has one of the tighter scripts, in my opinion. However, this movie came out around 2003 or 4, and in my opinion, the visuals do not hold up at all. I rewatched this about a few months ago, and when I was watching it, I was thinking, my God, animation does not hold up at all.
What year did this come out?
2004 or something like that.
Wow. Okay.
And this was like
Yeah,
a
this
year.
was
This
early
was this was a year or two after Finding Nemo.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
Finding Nemo holds up pretty well. It's just
Yeah.
that I'm willing to bet The Incredibles was being worked on for a long time. It's just that the technology when they were doing this wasn't ready yet, and yeah, it's got a lot of. It looks really bad in some areas.
Also, if I remember correctly, this is one of the first Pixar movies actually about humans. So
Yes, this was centered around humans. However, this is centered around superheroes.
yeah.
So all around.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably why the animation wasn't so great, is because they were
Yeah.
needing to worry about how humans look for the first time. So
Yeah. However, what do I say about this movie? I believe this script is very, very tight and solid. It's pretty good in my opinion. However, it's just the animation part. It's like maybe whenever we hopefully watch this movie soon, you will understand why I say that. However, I still say like this movie is still pretty worthwhile. It's one of Pixar's very best. Yes, I have seen the sequel. No, I do not like it.
Okay.
So maybe we'll watch it. I had probably hoped.
Fun fact: I've seen the sequel.
What?
I've seen the sequel.
You've seen the sequel?
Yeah. I've not seen the original, but I've seen the sequel.
Number 22, Bryce.
The reason why I've seen it's dumb.
Why?
So I was on vacation and there was nothing to do, but there was this one theater that was just showing movies, and one of the movies that was showing was Incredibles 2 because it was new. And I was like, I have literally nothing else to do, so I'll go watch that. And it came out like that weekend, so I didn't even get reviews, so.
Okay then.
Anyways.
22.
Number 22, 1982's The Thing.
Alright.
We talked about this one already?
Yeah.
It's the best special effects in cinema history, period, dot.
Alright. Number 22. You know what, Bryce? I had a weird epiphany.
What?
I wanted to change my number 22.
Really?
I have a pen right here. Originally, number 22 was going to be Singing in the Rain. I have a different one on here. This was one from the 1970s. My number 22.
Watching live edits.
Yep, live edits on hair. My number 22 is from the 1970s. Margot.
Oh, okay.
You ever seen that one?
Nope.
So Margot is pretty much centered around a man, literally named Margot. And he actually grew up around the evangelical Christian sphere. And this movie is literally a documentary centered around him and his whole upbringing of the evangelical sphere. And it is very fascinating. If you want to understand how evangelical Christianity is done, like the whole business around it, watch Margot. It's definitely one of the more fascinating movies I've seen. However, it's centered around the Pentecostal type of churches, where actually won't know what really all this is. So hopefully whenever we watch this stuff, it'll help you understand it a little bit more. But all around, this is my basic premise. This kid, or at least this guy, since he was a young kid, was an evangelical preacher since he was like the age of 5. Could apparently do magical stuff. And this whole thing around evangelical stuff literally was happening around him. And this movie just highlights the business stuff to it. And it is very fascinating. So go check out Marco. There you go. Live edits on air. It shows how fickle my process is. So yeah, go check out Marco. So number 21.
Number 21. 1991's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So we've already done with Terminator 1.
Yes.
And Terminator 2. So this Terminator 2 is different than 1.
Yes.
1 is more like a horror movie, kind of has like slasher-ish vibes, more in the sci-fi genre of it though. This one's just an action film.
Yeah.
Flat out. It completely drops the horror element and turns right into action.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to spoil too much about this movie, but Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back for this movie, and he's even better in my opinion.
Okay. I'm personally not as big on high on Terminator 2 as most people are. Most people say Terminator 2 is better than 1, in which I would say I kind of disagree. I kind of like the more subtlety aspect that 1 had. And it was very much, I don't know, I like the tension more in Terminator 1. Than
I have my own problems with 1.
That makes sense. I mean, look, this whole franchise has its own quirks and qualms that everybody will have in one of the movies. I mean, good lord. I mean, how many times has this movie had a sequel in the last, 10 or so years?
God.
3 or 2? I don't understand. Anyway, so, you have anything else, Bryce?
Nope. Go ahead.
21. Barely. Almost made the top 20, but I'm
Yeah.
sad it didn't. Black Swan.
Ah.
Yep. So Natalie Portman. Finally, my first Natalie Portman piece in this movie list. I've seen my appraisals of Natalie Portman, and this is one of the first Natalie Portman movies I've ever seen. I had to watch it secretly because this movie has a certain scene that if my parents saw it, they would not have let me see. You will probably understand why, Bryce, whenever we get to it. But
it's been a long time since I've seen it, I believe. So
yeah, I love this movie. I believe it is phenomenal. Natalie Portman is just a flat-out prodigy actress in her own right, very much akin to what's her name? What's her name? It's the woman that wins so many of the best actresses Oscars.
you're gonna say it, I'm gonna realize, but I have no clue who you're referencing. This is more yet, I'm sure.
Put a name down here, and I'll find out one of these days. All right, but yeah, Black Swan. It's phenomenal. Bryce says he's seen it before, but it's been forever. So
yeah,
this will be.
Remember. I definitely need to rewatch it.
Yep. So soon enough, we will talk about this movie. So I can't wait. All right, number 20. We are finally here. Okay.
Now we're here on the list that we initially advertised. So.
Now I have one question, Bryce, before we continue on. How many additions in the top 20 have you made? Like, if you can count them.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Mine are. I have 6.
Okay. So about a little under half my list has
Yeah.
changed.
However, a lot of some stuff has shifted around, which is to be expected. So, yeah. Number 20. What is
Number
it?
20. 1985's Brazil.
Can you just say it like a normal person?
Brazil.
Thank you. Anyway, yes, Brazil. I've heard so many things about this movie. Never seen it. It's been on so many people's top 20 lists of all time, top 10, even top 3. Never seen it. Really want to see it someday.
So this movie, the only reason it did not make my list last time is because it had been so long since I last saw it. I was like, okay, I'm going to rewatch it for this one. Absolutely hilarious, ridiculous movie. This movie turns the idea of this surrealist bureaucracy 1984 nightmare into a comedy.
Okay.
It is ridiculous. And the story is just about a single guy who wants nothing more than to be left alone.
Okay, then.
It's
very enticing synopsis.
It is absolutely hilarious. The name of the movie has nothing to do with it outside the lead song being named Brazil. So,
alright, so here we go. My number 20. Finally saw this movie already. Das Boot.
Das Boot, alright.
Yeah, so this movie centered around Germans. Oddly enough, we always talk about the Germans.
Yeah,
in
World
this
War
pod-
II Germans, in which case they are the focal point here.
Yes, and they are just shoved into a submarine, going underwater, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
You pretty much get the whole claustrophobic suspense, all these different things in this movie, and it's got the grit. It's got everything that you would want for if you have literally gone underground or underwater for an extended period of time.
I believe
It's got it all.
I believe this is in the opening title, so I don't mind saying this, is, if I'm remembering the numbers correctly for Das Boot, is that it opens with saying 40,000 Germans were assigned to working on the submarines. 30,000 died.
That sounds about right. Knowing how bad World War II was on everybody's front, it is pretty accurate to say that. Yeah. Oh boy.
Alright.
The less that can be said, the better about this movie, because it's just like a movie that you just have to experience, and then you'll just think, huh. It's a movie that'll make you say, huh. So, hopefully soon we'll talk about this movie, and I'll have more to say about it. So, yeah, Das Boot.
Alright.
Number 19.
Number 19. 1987, Evil Dead 2.
I am not surprised. I'm not surprised. And actually, I just realized something, Bryce. I looked at my list one more time, and I actually noticed that there was another addition onto it, so bump that number up to...
7.
Yes, number 7. Lucky number 7. Alright, yep, Evil Dead 2. We mentioned it before.
Yep,
So.
absolutely great. Made both our lists. So if it makes both our lists, that means you probably should watch it.
Oh, yeah. Alright, so my number 19, finally I saw this movie after such a long time. This was a movie that Bryce was actually surprised I'd never seen, because I always gave praisals towards the director. Barry Lyndon.
Alright.
Yep. So Barry Lyndon. What do I say about Barry Lyndon? So this movie is based around in the, I believe, 17th century in the UK. And in my personal opinion, this is probably Kubrick's one of his best. It is possibly the one movie in which I would say, like, in terms of like a historical piece of aspect, I look for, what's the word I'm thinking of? Immersion, I guess, in which this movie takes its time period and it just makes it feel like you're actually watching something that can be plucked right out of that century. So this movie, all around, if I had to say, like, if you took some equipment of today, like movie making equipment, and gave it to a bunch of people from the 17th century, I believe this is one movie that they would probably make. Every shot looks like a painting, and the lighting in this movie had to have been done through different ways, whether it had been natural light or having to use special equipment that has never been used before in making movies. One of which was the dinner scene where all of it was lit by candle, and Kubrick had to go out to NASA and ask them, hey, can I borrow y'all guys' camera that y'all used to film The Dark Side of the Moon? Got it, and that's how he filmed that scene. And it is phenomenal. We have our issues. Bryce has his issues with Kubrick, but I would say this is one that I think he would love the most.
It's been so... I remember nothing about this movie. So it's the same that I had with Princess Mononoke when I first rewatched it again, where I remember, for some reason, nothing about this movie. So,
Yeah.
I definitely need to rewatch it.
Oh, yeah. I think the one last thing I would say about this movie is that it gets its characters right, and by that I mean this. There is no way in hell that you would honestly be able to befriend any of these characters that was born in this time period, or even anybody. Like, say if you went back before the Industrial Revolution, there's no way in hell that you would be able to befriend or honestly befriend anybody before the Industrial Revolution. Like, everybody wants to say they can go back to, say, the Civil War, or they want to go back to the Revolutionary War, or anything, whatever, and they wanted to fight in that. And all I just think is no, the hell you don't. Sit the hell down, you damn candy ass. Like, if you took your 16th great-grandfather and you met him, he would probably think that you are lazy, effeminate, and insufferable, and want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Even the most femininely guy character in Barry Lyndon would think that you were womanly. I mean, he probably would think that if you were, in fact, a woman, but it's always the guys that say that kind of dumb shit. Anyway, yes, Barry Lyndon. Go check it out. Anyway, number 18.
All right. 1933's Duck Soup.
I don't have any recollection about this movie.
So, this is a Marx Brothers film. Marx Brothers made my list, and they made top 20. So,
shockingly enough, huh?
I love the Marx Brothers. This is a group of comedians that I grew up with. I grew up with like Marx Brothers, Three Stooges, Abbott Costello. I grew up with like a whole lot. And of those movies, Duck Soup's my favorite. Okay. In which case, the best way I can really describe this movie to someone is, first off, it's a comedy. It's technically a musical, I guess. There's 2 musical numbers in the whole movie. But the most notable part about this is that this is about the completely fictional nation of Fredonia, its leader being found for corruption. They search and find the most incompetent man they can to lead the nation.
I love incompetency, especially in bureaucracy like this.
Yeah, it is an absolutely insane movie. It has a surprising tone, it has a surprising message about war in the movie. It actually has commentary.
Subtlety.
It's very subtle though. You're probably not going to notice it unless you look out for it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. And the only joke I'm going to spoil is probably the most famous cinema joke of all time: the mirror spot. Huh. This is that movie.
I'm not too sure if I'm familiar, but I don't want anything to be said, actually.
Okay.
I want to actually experience it firsthand. Okay, so, let's see, my number 18. Yeah, it's calling back originally, because this is at the exact same spot as my original number 18. Oh. Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it never really moved at all. It's one of Cooper's very finest. One of the more interesting pieces in his entire filmography. It is a very straightforward movie, but it is very complex when you sink your teeth into it. So all around, yeah, we talked about this movie in the first 2 episodes, so definitely check this out.
Yep.
Right, number 17.
Number 17, 1987, The Princess Bride.
I'm not surprised. We talked about this movie enough times. Good Lord. Go check it out.
Yeah. If you have kids, show them this.
Yeah. My number 17, Ratatouille.
Oh, it's made. Okay.
Yep. We talked about it before. We can move on.
All right.
Number 16.
Number 16, 2003's Master and Commander.
Okay, this was also another movie that was recommended to me, saying, whenever I said I look for immersion when I see historical movies, and they said this one fits the mold pretty well.
So, yes, it's historically accurate, but the part that I love particularly about this, it's navally accurate. Mm-hmm. There's actual, not actual, but this is as accurate as we will probably ever get on film of naval combat.
Well, still, that still plays into the immersion factor.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I absolutely love, one hobby that I want to get into more than anything is actual, naval stuff. One of my, far end things, when I'm, 90 and close to dead and getting in my own grave because I'm going to die on a boat. But absolutely love this movie. It handles naval combat in such a smart way. The characters are very fascinating and witty. And the story is very good. This is also inspired by true events.
Okay.
In which case, this is going to be taking place during the Napoleonic War.
Makes sense.
The events did change a little bit. The only thing that I would say is that they could have made this based on true events, The only reason they didn't is the true event was the villain was an American ship. And they didn't want to make America the villains.
Oh my god.
Which I think is so stupid, but that's the only thing I dock against this movie.
Of course. Oh my god. Alright, so let's see. My number 16. Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, okay.
Yep. The movie that put Guillermo del Toro on the map.
Yes.
Literally, this movie is creativity, the movie. It is insane on how much of a creative mind that Guillermo del Toro was.
Yes.
And this movie won Best Picture. It deserved it. This movie is phenomenal. Like, I don't want to say anything about this movie. Like, you really need to seek this movie out for yourself and see it.
Yeah.
The less that's said about it, the better.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to say, Bryce?
No, I think you said for the most part, so.
Cool. Alright, number 15.
Number 15, 2005's Frank Miller's Sin City.
Yeah, Bryce has mentioned this movie quite a lot.
I love this movie.
I know you love this movie.
It is...
I have very little memory of ever seeing this, so I need to see it again.
It is extremely stylistic.
Mm-hmm.
Very stylistic. And then once again, this is made like piece by piece per movie. Very much similar to Pulp Fiction in its story writing. Where it's a bunch of small things and they have like mild interaction across the field. And this is based off a comic book, and you can tell this movie is framed like a comic book.
That sounds like fun.
It is very cinematically interesting. I believe it's probably the only Robert Rodriguez movie that made our lists.
Okay.
And if you need to know anything about Robert Rodriguez, is that companies effing love him.
Yeah, because he does everything himself.
Yeah, he does
for
everything himself.
For very little money.
Yeah, that's why they love him, is because your movie will come in under budget.
Mm-hmm.
He does everything himself, and because of that, he has very particular ideas of how movies should be made. He makes everything himself, so everything is done to his idea.
He's very similar, in my opinion, to like M. Night Shyamalan, is that he makes his movies in a certain way.
Yes.
For better or for worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, so Robert Rodriguez, he definitely has a hit and miss style.
Mm-hmm.
Hit, Sin City, miss, Shark Boy Lava Girl.
Maybe one day we'll talk about that one, but I kind of don't want to.
Yeah, but like Sin City, absolute hit. It is stylistically amazing.
Okay.
And has absolutely amazing stories in it.
Speaking of a movie that is a very fun, stylistic type of movie, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Ah, okay, number 15.
Yep,
Right.
it just stays in number 15. Well, it's actually number 14 last time. But,
okay.
yeah, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, it's always going to be somewhere in my list at some point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we talked about this in the first few episodes. You've probably seen this movie, so...
Yeah.
Alright, number 14.
Number 14, 1962's To Kill a Mockingbird.
I've heard a lot of appraisals about this movie.
It is very good.
However, never seen the movie, read the book.
That makes sense. A lot of people had to read the book in school.
I never read the book in school. Well, actually, no. Wasn't forced to read it. I just read it on my own leisure. I read it on my own leisure in 8th grade. And honestly, phenomenal book. I honestly would agree that it is one of the best pieces of American literature out there.
And in my opinion, this is about, like, because I also had to read the book. I had to read it for school.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this movie holds up to the book.
I can see that. I've always heard great appraisals about the movie, and I actually have not actually watched the sequel to Kill a Mockingbird, Ghost Out of Watchmen.
Okay.
It was released right before Harper Lee's death.
Oh.
In which there's a controversy surrounding it, which maybe one day when we talk about at least the Kill a Mockingbird as its whole thing, we'll talk about the movie more so. But I do want to talk about at least the sequel to the book, because I think it's got a very interesting conversation to go with it. But, yeah, I love the book. I'm willing to bet I'm going to love the movie as well.
Yeah,
So.
I think you like it as well.
Alright. So, number 14. Talked about this movie already, The Thing.
Yep.
It was going to be in here somewhere. It is one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
In my opinion, the greatest.
Possibly, yeah. It's going to be hard to ever top that movie. So, inspired so many different things. So, yeah. Alright, number 13, Bryce.
Number 13, 1971's Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, yeah. You've mentioned this movie to me before.
Yes.
And it has been on my watch list, but I just never got around to seeing it.
It's long.
Yes, I heard. It's long.
And the main jux to this movie is basically a Jewish village in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And it is basically about the idea of tradition versus what you want.
Okay.
that's the main crux of the movie, basically about what do you give to tradition and what does tradition give back. And it's a very fascinating movie about that because of it.
Okay.
I don't feel it's a topic talked about enough. And this movie does a very interesting idea tackling it. And on top of that, the main actor for this is just funny. He's just a good character.
Fantastic. Alright, so my number 13.
Alright.
Her.
Ah, alright.
Yep. Starring Joaquin Phoenix. Very big fan of Joaquin Phoenix. And Her is probably one of his more famous movies. Well, it was his most famous movie of like
I don't
the
know
last.
why. Every time I think of Her, I always think of Burt Reynolds.
You know, it makes sense. He does look like Burt Reynolds.
He does look like Burt Reynolds.
However, like in the last decade, this was the movie that Joaquin Phoenix was more famous about until Joker, which he did win an Academy Award for. However, Her, in my opinion, is the superior of his performances. In my personal opinion, this movie all around has one of the tightest scripts I have ever seen. To my knowledge, it could possibly rival in terms of how tight the script is to something like what was it called? The Truman Show.
Mm.
It's got a very tight script, and I love this movie so much. It's basically centered around a man falling in love with an operating system. It's so weird, I know, but I'm not kidding. This movie is super good.
Yeah. Just to give you like a comparison of that, as my host here just said, people lost their minds when Joker came out about Joaquin Phoenix's performance, and we're saying that hers has a better one.
Yes. Personally, this was the one I think he really deserved an Oscar for, in general, for. However, he did not win it. I don't even think he got a nomination for it, which is kind of sad. It's kind of sad, because like this was literally one of his best ones. Honestly, though, it's not just Joaquin Phoenix I'm a very big fan of. I would love to eventually talk about his brother, River Phoenix. Such a sad tale about him. He was so good, and he was poised for stardom. It's just that one night in California that changed it all. Drug overdose. We'll talk about it more sometime soon, so yeah. All around, yeah. Her is fantastic, so please seek it. Right, number 12.
Number 12. 1998's The Big Lebowski.
Coen Brothers movie. Here we
Talk
go.
about crazy dialogue.
Crazy dialogue and crazy characters.
Yes. This movie, the only way I'm going to describe this is imagine a movie with an absolutely crazy plot, but the main character refuses to be in the movie.
Oh my god.
This is about a movie trying to desperately stick to the main character, and the main character's having none of it.
Bryce, you're forgetting something. That's kind of like your opinion, man. Literally, this movie is just kind of like your opinion, and it's basically that.
This is an absolutely hilarious watch. This is like one of those types of movies that, like, if taken more seriously, would have been a very good, like, kind of drama film. But then they put this character as the lead, and he turned into an absolute comedy intentionally. Like this is actually a comedy. It's a dark comedy.
Oh yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's once again about a character that doesn't want to be in the movies.
It's just all around great. It's just so weird. It's an anomaly in its own right.
Yeah.
Not the only Coen Brothers movie we're going to talk about right here, even though we talked about the other one soon. It's still on there, believe it or not. Alright, so my number 12. We talked about this movie before already. Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's always going to stay somewhere in my top 20. Whether it be top 10 or still bottom 10, or whatever you want to say. Yep. All around. Yeah, Grand Budapest.
In which case, same spiel as a normal give. If you're wanting to watch a movie, immediate recommendation.
Yep. Number 11.
Number 11, 1988's Die Hard.
We mentioned this before. It's a fun action movie. One of the few action movies that I would say I enjoy, in not even an ironic sense. I purely think it's a very fun movie on its own.
I agree.
Yep. Alright, mine number 11. Blade Runner 2049.
Ah, yep. There it is.
Yep. There it is, yep.
As we get to the top of this list, you're going to see some repeats because we already know what some of the movies that are top 20 were. They weren't changing. So.
Yeah, some don't change, but yes.
Hence why we did top 50, kind of. So.
Yep, don't worry. There are 2 changes, though, in my top 10 that you will see soon enough. But all around, I love Blade Runner. We've talked about it before. We will talk about the original one, in which Bryce can gawk at a lot more, right? But still, yeah, Blade Runner 2049. It's the perfect sequel, in my opinion.
All right.
Number 10.
Number 10. So top 10.
Yeah, we're finally there.
2015's Mad Max Fury Road.
I'm not surprised. Fun movie. Like I said, how I described that movie in the original episodes. Fun.
Yep.
Oh, man. Alright, my number 10. More psychological this time. The Lighthouse.
Ah, okay.
Yep, that's staying there pretty much. I personally think this is one of the finest horror movies in the last decade, and it is personally one of the best historically accurate or immersive movies I've ever seen. I love this movie to death. I love William Dafoe, and I love Robert Pattinson. Those two have an amazing chemistry that I would hope to God see again sooner or later, because, good Lord, they worked so well together. You have anything to say, Bryce?
Nope.
Alright, so number 9.
Number 9. 2003's The Five Obstructions.
How would you recollect that much?
So, this is a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Danish film.
Mm-hmm.
Danish documentary.
Okay.
And I cannot recommend this to a casual audience. This is going to be a hard watch for anyone who's not someone who really enjoys movies. Because this is a documentary about loving movies. And one time, this is a while back, last week or so, I should have said a while back for that, you were talking to me, and at one point you mentioned, so if you could make one movie, what would it be? And I said, if I could make any movie, I would want to make something like The Five Obstructions.
Okay.
The Five Obstructions is something that is inspiring to me. So the basic of this movie is that a director, he's directed a few films, they're not like blow-away famous, they're mostly known within the critical sphere. Like, I believe one of his more famous ones is Nymphomaniacs. Then, what he decided to do is he makes a documentary about pulling his mentor out of retirement to remake one of his favorite shorts 5 times with different rules.
Interesting.
And the movie, it's basically what is his priority with making film? What needs to stay in order to make sure the rules fit? And it's a very interesting watch because of that, because it really gets into the idea of loving movies and what makes them, and the people who love movies and makes them themselves.
Okay.
It is about a short, so it's not about a whole movie, but it really definitely goes into the idea of what is the director wanting versus what needs to be done.
Versus what the audience might want.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Very interesting documentary. It's one of those few movies, though, that I recommend. It's kind of one of those movies you watch once. Not something you watch multiple times.
Alright, so let's move on to my number 9. We talked about this movie before, The Green Mile.
Ah, okay.
Yep, that's staying in there. It's still one of those movies that I find to be a very fascinating piece. I thought the director did a very fantastic job in adapting this book. Well, we talked about Shawshank Redemption. Yep. It's not going to be anywhere in any of our lists.
Yeah.
We kind of mentioned it beforehand, but yeah. I still like The Green Mile. It's still been a thought-provoking movie to this very day for me. So, yeah, we've talked about this before, so if you want more detail on why I like it so much, then please go see the other episodes.
Alright.
So, number 8.
Number 8, 1966. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Not surprised. Not surprised. Yeah, we talked about this before. This movie is very much a very fun, talkable piece in this movie. Third movie in the Fistful of Dollars, or the Man with No Name trilogy.
You don't need to watch the others.
Yeah, you don't need to see the others, apparently. Haven't seen the others, but I've only seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I thought this was probably the culmination of what the people working on this movie was wanting to do, and I will definitely see, I sing a lot of praises to this.
Yep.
Alright. Now my number 8. Alright, so this is the first of the changes. I've mentioned this movie to Bryce many different times, and I've always had one major issue with the movie personally that makes it impossible for me to put it in my top 10, even though I wanted to.
Well, now it's in your top 10.
Yes, and I decided, fuck it, we're going to do it. The Pianist.
Ah, okay.
Yes, so what can I say about The Pianist? Well, this is set in World War II, yet again. And, well, this is centered around a man who is a very famous piano player. He just was from Poland, and World War II occurred, and he had to go into hiding. and we literally watch what happens as he's going through all this, and, well, we see it all, and it's saddening.
Yeah. Adrian Brody, probably Adrian Brody's best piece.
Yeah. He won the Best Actor in the Academy Awards, the youngest to ever win it at the ripe old age of 27.
He deserves it.
Yep, he deserved it, yeah. And why do I say personally I have a hard time putting this movie on here? Is it about the movie subject matter at hand? No, not really. It's actually pretty tame when you compare it to something like Come and See or even Schindler's List. The reason why I had a hard time putting it on here for the longest time was the director. The director's name is Roman Polanski. I admire Roman Polanski a lot. I love his directing style. I literally would say he is one of the greatest directors, in my opinion. I would have more movies of his in my list, but there's one thing that happened. He raped a girl. Yeah. He did stuff to a young girl, under 18. Yeah, she was under 18. He was a fully grown man, and ran away, and got away with it.
Yep. Fled to Europe.
Yep, fled to Europe, and has never been back ever since.
Yep.
And he is still being sought after to this day. And he is not even apologized. He hasn't even, tried to amend his crimes. And that's why I say I have the hardest time to do it, because when you look at his
Absolutely great movie ruined by the director.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments where you have to separate the art from the artist.
Yep.
However, I have a hard time doing so, because when you look at his other movies, so another famous one that I would say is another one that I would put in my top 20 is Rosemary's Baby. Another one where it just has the point of view of a woman going through a literal psychological torment. And whenever you realize what Roman Polanski did to run away, it just adds in another layer to this movie, and it makes you feel scared to think of, was this a man's perverted fantasy? So that's why I have a hard time putting his movies anywhere on my list, except I would say finally, I'm going to say fuck it. The Pianist is amazing. I love this movie, and I'm going to put it in the top 10, but fuck Roman Polanski. Fuck him to the depths of hell. Anyway, do you have anything else to say, Bryce?
No.
Okay, let's put that out of the way. We will talk about this movie more, but this is my only time to deal with anything with Roman Polanski. I'm literally going to Chris Benoit him. Alright, let's move on to our number 7.
Alright, number 7. 1941's The Maltese Falcon.
I've heard of this one, but I don't know much about it.
So, it's a noir film.
Okay.
This movie is complex. More in the sense of, do not trust a single word said in this movie. This is a noir sense in the most unabashed sense. Everyone is trying to betray everyone.
Makes sense.
This movie is very fascinating and is probably the biggest study in the idea of the MacGuffin.
Okay.
In which case, all you really need to know, and which is the opening title sequence, is apparently during the Crusades, there was a Spanish king that requested to be paid, and a couple of soldiers decided to get him a golden falcon encrusted with jewels and got lost, stolen by pirates or whatever. And this is about the people who were hunting that.
Okay then.
It's set in the 1950s as well, millennia after the fact, so...
Alright, sounds interesting. Anything else to say?
No, it's just a very good noir piece. It's the my top noir of all time, so...
Okay. Alright, my number 7. Alright, we're going up again, like I said earlier, the 2007. I believe is one of the strongest years for movies ever, and here's another example of it. Into the Wild. I watched this movie fairly recently, and it's always been a movie that I've found to be a very thought-provoking piece. So, Bryce, have you ever seen Into the Wild?
Yes, we've talked about it before.
Okay, cool. So, let me try to synopsis this for the audience. So, Into the Wild is based off of the true story of one Christopher McCandless. Around the tail end of his college career, he had a double major. He had a very bright future ahead of him. However, he was just disillusioned with the rest of society. So he pretty much sold off a bunch of his stuff, donated the money to charity, got into his car.
His BMW van.
Yeah, his BMW van, and drove around the North American continent. And that's honestly all I'll say, pretty much. This whole movie just chronicles what we understand what happened to him. And it's fascinating, to say the least. Like, it's a very interesting character study of this guy and his relationship with the many people he met along the way.
Yep.
So, whew, boy, why do I like this movie so much? Well, he did a very similar thing that I would love to do one of these days, is which go across the United States and check out the place.
Oh, you're relating.
Oh, yes, I'm relating. I'm relating to myself somewhat. However, yes, I really enjoy the nature shots of this movie. I believe it's very beautifully made. I think Emily Hirsch's performance as Christopher McCandless is nearly pitch perfect casting. I've read a little bit of his journal, of Christopher McCandless' journals, and it's pretty much pitch perfect on, like, from paper to person into character. It's like, wow, I can actually believe this is Christopher McCandless. All around, I don't really want to say so much about the movie. We will talk about it in the next few episodes, because it's in we have our episodes scheduled out, and this is one of the first ones, so I'm very excited to talk more about it. However, all around, yeah, I love this movie. Go check it out.
Alright.
You have anything to say, Bryce?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Alright, so number 6.
Number 6. 1994's The Legend of the Drunken Master.
That's very surprising how high it's gone.
Yeah, this is like one of the only comedies that was able to break the barrier.
That's very surprising. Wow. Alright, yeah, we talked about Jackie Chan and Drunken Master. Great stuff. So if you want to know more, check out the spoiler section, because we delved a little bit more into why we like this a little bit more.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Alright, so my number 6. So another situation happened here again. It's 2 movies, but I couldn't pick which one I liked the most, so take it with a grain of salt. So my number 6, Monty Python, either The Holy Grail or Life of Brian.
I presume you were actually going to put one of those on.
Yeah, one of those two was going to be there, and I really couldn't pick which one I liked more. Life of Brian, I believe, has had more subtlety and interesting commentary with it. However, Holy Grail was just an all-around fun piece just to reference. So I can't really...
They're great for different reasons.
Great for very different reasons. So, I don't know. We talked about Holy Grail, so I guess we can just mention a little bit about Life of Brian. So, what is Life of Brian about? Well, this is a man named Brian, and everybody believes he is Jesus Christ. And we just see the chaos that ensues.
Well, they believe he's the Messiah. They
believe he is the Messiah. Well, pretty much I just say Jesus Christ because I just thought everybody's just saying he's Jesus, so let him be in that. But yeah, literally this whole movie is just hilarious, and it is some very interesting commentary. But
by the way, just a little note. Do you actually know why they called the character Brian?
Why?
Because according to John Cleese, he said they were trying to think of what's the most boring name that's ever existed, and they came up with the name Brian.
Oh my god, that's great. I love John Cleese. May that man rest in peace. God damn it. Anyway, yeah.
I want to hear that discussion, by the way. I'm trying to find the most boring name.
Oh my god. Alright, yeah, but Monty Python, they're one of the greatest comedy troupes of all time. You can either take the Holy Grail, but Life of Brian is just an anomaly.
Yeah.
So, please watch it. Alright, so number 5.
Number 5. 1957's Throne of Blood.
Honestly, I'm not that surprised.
Yes.
Alright, so our only Akira Kurosawa film, there's a spoiler free. However, we will talk about him more. I really do plan to have a whole giant episode dedicated to Kurosawa, because this man deserves it, and we'll be able to talk more about it.
Little note, I was going to consider putting Seven Samurai, but I didn't have enough time to watch and rewatch.
It's a very long one, so you're excused. I haven't seen it yet, but I have Ran that's in my
Ran's another great one.
Yep. And I did thought about Throne of Blood, but I thought I don't know if I'm really comfortable yet to do that. But
that's fair.
Still love it. It's still great. So go check it out. All right. So my number 5, No Country for Old Men. So yeah, the only Coen Brothers movie in this. I believe it's one of their best, and it's definitely their darkest. All around. We talked about it in the spoiler episode. Go check it out. All around, yeah. I love No Country for Old Men. So, anything you want to say, Bruce?
No.
Okay. Alright, number 4.
Number 4. 1994's Leon the Professional.
Alright, yeah, so we talked about it in the last episode. Pretty much we were saying how the 3 major characters that we mainly focus on, stellar performances all around, great antagonist, possibly the greatest side character or supporting character of all time.
In my opinion. In my humble opinion.
Oh my god, you're humble.
You always know it's great when someone calls themselves humble.
Oh, yeah. Alright, what is it?
This is, in my opinion, the best main cast acting of all time.
Okay.
In my opinion.
In your opinion, yes. I don't know if I can really dispute it, but I'd have to give it a lot more thought. So, all around, great movie, great casting, just all around, really great. So.
Yep.
Right, so, my number 4. Princess Mononoke.
Mm.
Yep, last Ghibli movie on here. Only, we had 3. So, yeah. Princess Mononoke is probably the penultimate of what I would love to see more of in animated movies, is that its imaginative aspect to it. I believe its middle portion of the movie is possibly the greatest middle section of a movie of all time. It's just fascinating to me. But all around, yeah, the ending is a little bit hard to mesh into. However, still, I love Princess Mononoke. I think it's the best Ghibli movie out there. Of course, it's in my humble opinion. So
this is all in our humble opinions.
All in our humble opinion. So, all around, great movie.
Alright.
So, number 3.
Number 3. 1962's Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, I'm not too shocked. Yep. I have a lot of praises to Lawrence of Arabia, but I honestly thought I can't put it in my top 50 yet because it's only not even been a year since I've seen it, and I just think I want to give it some more thought.
That's fair.
I will definitely see it again very soon though. So, all right. So my number 3, Young Frankenstein. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's never gonna go.
We already talked about this one.
Yeah, it's too fun. It's too funny. All right. So number 2, we're on the top 2.
Yeah, top 2. 1984's Amadeus.
Oh, I'm not shocked. That has literally gone nowhere.
Yeah. Amadeus has been my second pick for years now.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for it.
You literally, like, one of the first ever top 10 movies that we ever constructed together. Amadeus has always been either in the number 1 or number 2 position for you.
It's never been number 1. It's always been number 2.
It's always been close, though. I
Yeah,
feel like there was like 1 or 2 chances.
Well, once again, so for years, so ever since about middle school or whatever, like before I even got into film, I decided my number 1 movie of all time was going to be Shawshank Redemption. For some reason. And I decided to keep it at number 1 for a very long time, even after I was like, the movie's good, but I'm not like absolutely in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to keep it at number 1 just because it's been my number 1 for so long, while the rest of my list was changing. And at one point, Amadeus had hit my number 2 spot and stayed at number 2 for a very long time.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. I've seen this movie like 3 times with you, I believe. 2 or 3
Yeah,
times.
we've seen it a few times together.
Yeah. All around. Great stuff. Not really much else to really say. Bryce, we've already talked about it.
Yeah, we've
decent
talked about it a
amount.
lot.
Alright, so, yeah, my number 2. The biggest jump from my original top 20, Bryce should probably know by now what it might be. 12 Angry Men.
Yes.
Yep. Literally the penultimate of what I believe filmmaking should strive to be. And yeah, 12 Angry Men, it's phenomenal.
Yep.
It's hard for me to really say otherwise. We talked about it before, so yeah, if you want to learn more about it, but there will be literally one whole episode that's only just this movie. I just think this is one movie that it just deserves its very own episode, so
Yep.
yeah, it's a must watch.
Alright.
So yeah, number 1.
Finally rounding it out, rounding out today's episode. Number 1 pick. Are you ready?
Regrettably, yes, I am.
Oh, we already know what each other's are.
Yeah, we already know.
1993's Schindler's List.
Okay. I mean, it was obvious. I already knew that much. I even knew way back after we literally first watched it together, and it was like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
Bryce cheated on me. I can't believe him. It was the number 1 literally a year ago, and it hasn't changed since.
Yeah.
So we talked about it a lot, and we probably will talk about it again sooner or later, but yeah. Alright, so my number 1. 1940s. Yes, I'm going to go with Bryce's whole joke here. Mine, 1940, Great Dictator. Yep. Charlie Chaplin classic.
Yep. His
Literally-
first talkie and his last.
Yeah, first time, yeah. The one time the Silent Man.
I guess technically, he did appear in one other movie after this. It's called Chaplin. In which case, he's interviewing as himself.
Yes.
But anyways,
But
it's the last appearance.
How about this? The one time the Silent Man decided to speak and left everybody speechless, and it would be the last time he ever actually made something serious like that.
Yeah.
And which, fascinating stuff to look back on to this very day. Literally, it would be coming close to its 100th anniversary in about, 18 years.
Mm.
Who knows? Who knows if this podcast will last long enough to see the 100th anniversary? But
I think some of our movies actually have one that's not too far off on my list.
I know. Probably
my number 31 pick. That's going to be its 100th year anniversary in 7 years.
Yeah, all around. Yeah, there it is. Our top 50s.
Yeah.
You have anything really to say, Bryce? Besides the other things, literally, the year in the making.
Yeah, no kidding. Top 50. So, just to give you a little bit of a thing, next episode, we are going to be talking about the AI stuff. In which case, our old lists, not these ones. I'm probably going to do something for these ones as well. But our old list, we plugged that into an AI, and it recommended one movie for each of us. In which case, it recommended multiple movies, but we picked one that we'd never seen before.
Yes.
In which case, I was recommending a movie and you were recommending a movie.
Yes.
And we're going to wind up reviewing those next episode. And next episode is actually going to be the more typical format for what we're going to be doing episodes. In which case, what we're going to be hoping to do is we're going to review only a few movies. Next one's only 2, but we're trying to keep it like 2 or 3 for the series. In which case, we're going to, at the beginning, I presume, do a non-spoiler, and at the end of the episode, do spoiler stuff. So if you only want to watch the beginning of the episode, you can get all that kind of stuff, get the recommendations, and then come back after you've watched it and hear us talk about the rest of it.
Yes. However, I feel like most of the time, though, we might do just flat out spoilers. Yeah. However, I will make sure at the very end of each episode to let you know the next movies that we'll be talking about are this, this, and this. So if you want to get caught up, just watch these before the next episode, just so you'll be ready.
In which case, we can go ahead and do that right now.
Alright, yeah. So next week's episode, or whenever the next episode I decide to finally release it on, we will have 2 movies. Bryce's movie is a very controversial director, for him at least, Dustin Lynch's... David Lynch's The Elephant Man.
Yes.
Which is a very fascinating movie in its own right. So if you've never seen it, it's about the true story of one Joseph Merrick who has been affected by a very rare and incurable disease that severely disformed his entire body.
Yep.
And he became a circus, literally a circus attraction. And
he wants nothing more than just be a normal human being.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then yours.
Mine. Would you like to say what it is?
They plugged all the stuff into the AI, and Tanner here was recommended Grave of the Fireflies.
Yes. Yep. It's Grave of the Fireflies. A Ghibli movie, oddly enough. And this movie is centered around the tail end of World War II. We're focusing on a brother and a sister and their struggle to survive in a war-torn Japan. And it is pretty interesting, to say the least, on how much of a tragedy it turns into. But we both have already seen those movies way long time ago.
Yep.
So all around, yeah. So we actually watched the subtitle version of Grave of the Fireflies because that was actually a preference that I wanted to do, because of its subject matter at least. The Elephant Man is in English, so you'd be fine right there. However, the Grave of the Fireflies episode is going to be the subtitle version. I don't know if there's any differences in the dubbed version, but just to let you know, it is going to only focus on the subtitled version at the very least. So all around, yeah. So if you want to prepare yourself for next episode, please seek out watching The Elephant Man and Grave of the Fireflies, subtitled edition, if you wish.
Yep.
So, all around, yeah. So is there anything else that we have to announce?
Give me a second. Also, all the movies that we talked about in today's episode, we will be doing reviews for further. Yes. We will be doing them in a different format, so we might as well talk about the format here a little bit. Yeah. In which case, what we are going to be doing for that is we're going to be tackling 3 movies per episode. In which case, we're basically going to be alternating who has the higher pick here. So, one person's going to start with 2, the other person's going to have 1, but then the next episode, the one person's going to have 2, the other person will have 1. Yeah. So, I believe for the first episode or something, you have 2 movies and I picked 1. Then, for the following episode, I picked 2 movies, he picked 1.
Yes.
So, that's going to be how it's going in alternate order. We'll be talking about what movies we'll be reviewing the next week. I'm going to be giving higher priority to the movies in my top 50. To start with, but as the series is going to go along, we'll obviously just be prioritizing movies that we want to talk about. So Obviously, mixed in through those is also going to be special episodes. We're going to talk about those as those come up.
Mm-hmm. There'll be more special milestone episodes. You'll probably tend to know when they might be. Like, for example, episode 5 is going to be a special one that we've hinted at in the last episode.
Yeah.
The Star Wars movies. And then episode 10 might be a special one. 20 might be a special, but we don't know for sure yet. I just know episode 30 is a special one because I talked about it with somebody not that long ago. So all around, yeah, just be prepared for those special milestone episodes. They'll probably be the more fascinating ones for us to talk about.
And if you're just looking for good movies, stay tuned for the rest of them.
Mm-hmm. So, all around, yeah. I don't have anything else really to say in terms of announcements. Is there anything else, Bryce?
Screw you.
Okay,
That actually hit me in the neck.
I don't know. Get sued. Bye.